Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 138 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. Folks, today is Gamescom Day, and this is going to be a Gamescom episode. Apologies for not getting the show out on last Friday, but I think this has worked out great because we have the first 2 days of Gamescom to talk about right when it's breaking and when it's happening. And we are going to talk about all the big stories from Gamescom in today's episode. So thanks for stopping by on a Tuesday. I know that's out of the ordinary for you guys. But we appreciate you guys taking the time to tune in. I know y'all got work and everything tomorrow, so thanks a lot for hanging out with us. But Gamescom is going down right now. I think a lot of people maybe forgot that it's happening. Like, I saw some stuff online where people are like, wait a minute, Gamescom is happening right now?
It kind of snuck up.
Yeah. Do you think it's losing relevance a little bit?
I just think if you're not going, you're not thinking about it too much. Also, there's
I mean, the numbers are sky high.
Right.
Obviously.
Well, there also wasn't as much social media chatter from like PR and people. It seemed like because like with E3, it's like late April you start getting the kind of the hand wringy like, oh, I'm so busy and I can't possibly answer all my emails. Like tweets from people.
And things on Facebook,
it's like, oh no, you have a full-time job and it's horrible that you have to do things.
You have to sit there and click a mouse.
Yeah. But like you start to see that kind of stuff, it's it's kind of part of the hype cycle to some degree.
Yeah.
And nobody did that with Gamescom. It was like I didn't see a single tweet from someone's like, "Oh, I'm so busy making Gamescom appointments today." It's like just, I mean, maybe they weren't in English. I don't know.
I saw people that are like saying, "I'm getting on the plane to go to Germany" and stuff like that.
Yeah, but like even those where I'm like, "Oh, I wonder why they're going to Germany." It's like it didn't click until like because you see people say that when they're going on vacation too. But no one said, "I'm going to Gamescom, getting on the plane in Germany." They're just like, "Oh, getting on the plane to go to Europe." I'm like, "Oh, cool, have fun in Europe."
Vacation.
I don't know what you're doing in Europe, but cool.
Well, the data certainly, says that Gamescom is bigger than ever. 350,000 people at last year's show.
Nope.
Well, yeah, nope. I was grabbing images for the banner image for our Gamescom hub, which, by the way, everybody should be using. You can sift all the content from Gamescom by over 60 different categories, but most of you guys probably know that already. But anyway, I was starting looking at images from Gamescom, and the whole time I was saying exactly that.
That's 5 times E3.
It's insane. You look at like the one hall where everybody comes in, and it is literally like 100 yards wide, and just so far that it just goes to a point. Like one pixel that represents like 8,000 people's heads or whatever. It's insane how big it is. Gamescom does do the thing where the press gets in the first like day and a half, and then the general public comes in after that. So it does kind of help you get your coverage done. And there was a ton of coverage breaking. If you haven't been on Sifted today, as soon as this show is over, go check it out. There is tons and tons of huge stuff. Of course, we're going to talk about a lot of it right now. We're going to save you hours and hours of sorting through and sifting through Gamescom content right here on GameFace. And we have all the biggest headlines, all the biggest games. We're going to talk about every single one of them, much to Sam's chagrin. He's going to be a busy guy over there on the TriCaster today. So let's get started. In my opinion, we put out a top 10 this week, or this weekend anyway, is the 10 most important games of Gamescom. It wasn't most anticipated or the biggest games. It was the most important ones. And I took a different angle with our Sifted Countdown because after E3, everyone could have guessed what the most anticipated games of Gamescom are. So I chose games that had the most to win or lose at Gamescom for that list. It was a good primer for people who are getting ready for Gamescom coverage. But the number one game on that list, spoiler, is Devil May Cry 5. Because the series has been away for a long time. The last one was good, but not amazing. And obviously, the last game was polarizing with fans because it was created by a Western studio. And we know the story about DMC. So this is the game back in the hands of the fathers of the DMC franchise.
Well, let's not forget, also gave us 2.
Right. You're right.
It's not a guarantee of anything.
No, you're absolutely right. They gave us...
Because I like DMC. Sorry.
I did too, yeah.
I get why people think that the character design is douchey, but that was a good game.
It was, yeah. Well crafted, and people have problems getting over their hang-ups over characters.
It's better than 4.
Yeah, absolutely. It was.
I don't think anything's ever going to top 3. 3 is probably the best character action game ever made.
Yeah, that was kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah, I don't see that. It was the perfect balance of action and awesome and like super skill based, like you got to be good at this or it's going to eat you alive kind of thing. Like that was like exactly where it needed to be.
Devil May Cry 4 could have been good.
Could have.
But it's like it was only a third of a game. And they made you play that same third of a game twice.
Right. And I'm never cool with the whole like the first half of the game is getting to this point and then the second half is going back down the path to where you started.
That's so cheap.
That was a cop out in Soul Reaver 2. It was a cop out in Halo 1. It's just not a cool way to do things.
Hopefully that doesn't happen in this one.
I would think it really feels like they're learning their lesson here, and it looks also like they're making Nero his own character finally.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like the more casual fans will still probably say like, "Oh, why Dante cut his hair?" But until Dante shows up with his disgusting old man face. But like it looks from the trailer and the footage they're showing, like he's developed his own style. He's not just like kind of a Dante light now. So that's good to see, and it looks like there's a lot of weight behind what he's doing, and like.
Well, maybe Capcom finally realized that a lot of people were confused. It's like you have two like grungy dudes with like white hair. Like, what do you expect people to think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just encouraged by the fact that it looks like the combat has weight and meat to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes like the lesser games in this series kind of have a problem where like it feels like you're just hacking away at a thing and it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
3 definitely doesn't have that problem, which is one of the reasons it's so good. Everything you feel powerful without feeling overpowered, and hopefully that's the balance they're trying to strike here, because it feels like, well, if just from like the visuals and the kind of the clips they're showing in the new trailer, it feels like you have to be on top of what's happening, but if you know what you're doing and which moves you can use, like you can do some pretty awesome stuff. So even as someone who has been pretty much checked out of the Devil May Cry series since 3, this looks promising enough to sort of bring me back into the anticipation fold at the very least.
Well, it certainly looks like a Devil May Cry game.
Yes.
Which is a big deal for fans. However, I think that might also be one of its downfalls, because what we've been seeing over the last half decade is old franchises like this getting revived, but being changed pretty drastically when they're revived. Like God of War is a good example. We had kind of accepted what God of War was. Sony Santa Monica was like, no, wait a minute, we're going to reimagine what you think of when you hear the name God of War, and did it with aplomb. But looking at Devil May Cry 5, it could be Devil May Cry 3, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. If you look at a quick snippet of it, there's nothing, or not much anyway, that is immediately apparent that would make you say, oh no, this isn't one of the old Devil May Cry games.
Yeah, well,
linear progression, not an open world.
Yeah, well, I think part of the advantage it has is that it doesn't look quite as blatantly weirdo Japanese anime thing as the previous ones did. I feel like this will appeal to your mainstream casual Western gamer as much as someone who already is into Devil May Cry, so I think that's what they're banking on.
I don't think this will ever be a game for the mainstream, though.
No, but
because it's challenging.
I think it could be, yeah, but so was God of War. If you played it a certain way, and I think it's there. I think it's possible. They're hoping, obviously, I think, for another Monster Hunter World style breakout hit.
Yeah.
Which is not impossible. Like something that's well made and has some slick style to it can definitely be a breakout hit outside of Japan at this point. I mean, I think Monster Hunter World proves that, because I don't think Monster Hunter World plays very well. I don't think it's probably the best Monster Hunter, but I don't think it's a particularly great game on its own terms. But
yeah, the controls in that franchise have never really felt responsive.
But something about it, finally resonated, and Western audiences bought it by the millions. They're up to like 10 million
tens of millions, yeah.
So I'm not saying it will happen, but I think there's nothing to me to suggest that this game couldn't do the same if the stars were right, however you want to put it. I mean, it is a very crowded Q1 that is coming out in the
yeah. So by the way, it's coming out March 8th.
Yeah,
which we hadn't mentioned.
So there's a lot of stuff going to be on the shelf competing for attention around that time. But I think it'll do fine. I'm sure their expectations are in check for what it needs. Certainly Monster Hunter World outdid Capcom's expectations by tremendous amounts, and they've said so. So I think you've got a guaranteed sort of set amount of copies to sell on this game, and I think they'll hit that. It looks like a quality entry. unless it comes out and something's horribly wrong. Like that could be, but like it doesn't look like that. Capcom doesn't strike me as that.
Capcom doesn't really release broken games. You may not like them very much, but they're generally not broken.
Yeah, like I don't like Monster Hunter World all that much, but like I'm not going to call it a bad game or a broken game.
Right,
It's not my game. I mean, I think this is, at the very least, if this doesn't sell, they can at least say we gave it our best shot, and no one can really complain that there's no more Devil May Cry games after this, because look, this is about as good as this is going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I agree with that. Like, that's what I was getting at, is I don't know that they have given it their best shot. I feel like they've created a game that all the fans have been asking for, instead of creating a game that maybe pushes the envelope a little bit for the franchise.
Well, we don't know everything about it yet.
Yeah, I mean, between the gameplay, there's been like 20 minutes of gameplay that's been released. There's a 20-minute demo. And that's on SIFTD right now if you want to watch the whole thing. And then they put out a trailer today that was a lot more wide-reaching than the demo. It appears that Nero is the lead character. Do you think people will care?
Yeah. I'm sure you can play as Dante.
You can. Like in the trailer, they show him actually.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? What he does?
Well, I saw his motorcycle becomes like
his
swords
weapons.
Or something.
Yeah, his motorcycle splits in half, and then he has one half on one arm and the other half on the other arm, and then he starts attacking with the motorcycle. That's very Devil May Cry.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just making a really good Devil May Cry is all they need to do. Not everything needs to be an open world action RPG. Although I'm sure there will be elements in here somewhere of stuff like that, but like I don't think it needs to be that. It's fine.
I don't know. It just feels to me like the developers. The game looks great. Don't get me wrong, and I'm going to probably love it and play the living crap out of it. But it does seem to me that maybe the developers took the easy route. And
I don't think there was anything easy about this. I mean, the design is there, the visuals are there, the combat system's there. Like, that's not an easy thing to do.
Easier route, I guess.
I don't agree with that.
Path of least resistance.
Path of what the people who like this series want. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think everything needs to be reinvented into The Witcher 3.
Oh, I think it depends on your expectations for sales. I mean, if they're okay with this selling a couple million copies, sure. If they want it to hit Monster Hunter numbers, I don't think it'll do that in this state.
Well, I don't think that's why Monster Hunter sold like that. I think Monster Hunter sold like that because of the multiplayer, like, social aspect, which is not part of Devil May Cry. So I certainly don't want to co-op Devil May Cry. I'm not interested. That's not how this stuff works. So
yeah, I'm not interested in that either. I just think the design feels antiquated and old. I mean, it's the same design that the first DMC had, essentially.
Yeah, that's what Nintendo keeps saying about Metroid, but they're wrong too.
But to me, the game looks awesome. I'm excited for it. I've always loved the combat in Devil May Cry. Even in Devil May Cry 2, the combat got me through the game ultimately.
I guess I am a little surprised that they didn't go a little more Dark Souls.
Yeah, that could have been another angle. Seeing this fight on this bridge is what reminded me of it too.
But like, maybe they did. Who knows?
I mean, these games are hard.
Yeah.
They're not easy games. You cannot, like, you can hack and slash and button mash your way through the first few hours of a DMC game, but eventually it gets to the point where you have to learn. You have to learn how to use the combat system. You have to learn how to pull off combos. You have to learn how to use your guns.
Some of the stuff you really had to learn in 3 to survive well was 1 and 2 frames. Like,
yeah.
It was like learning a fighting game, a very precise fighting game. And I don't know if they'll get that nitty gritty on this one, but like certainly 4 moved away from that to some degree. But and there's always the thing, the balance that Devil May Cry has had, where it's like there's one thing to be good enough to finish the game, it's another thing to be good enough to get like S ranks on everything. Like there's always,
and this game has that, like,
that
at the
extra
end
level
of
mastery, basically.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned that, actually, it makes me wonder how they would do something like that with an open world game. It might be a little more challenging, and that is a big part of Devil May Cry.
I mean, you basically have to rate each fight. Somehow,
which that would just get annoying after a while.
I feel like I did play like an open worldy kind of game that did that at one point, but I can't remember what it was now.
So maybe that's one of the reasons why they decided to keep the old design, is to keep sort of that aesthetic from the franchise intact.
I mean, you mess with that too much, and it's not Devil May Cry anymore.
No, you're right. But you know what? If someone would have told me 7 years ago what they were going to do with the new God of War, I would have said that's not God of War.
Yeah.
So as long as you do it well, people are willing to accept change. It's whenever you try to change something and it sucks, that's when people freak out.
Yeah, but they already did that with Devil May Cry.
No, you're right.
DMC.
Except that game didn't suck.
It didn't suck, but it also didn't sell.
Yeah.
And I think one of the lessons of DMC is do not alienate the core fan base. You got to please the core fan base and hope that you appeal beyond them.
Yeah.
But alienating them in the hopes of reeling in people that never played this before is always a losing proposition.
The other thing I would say, too, is this is probably the closest thing I'm going to get to a new Ninja Gaiden for a while.
That's also true.
This
or a new Bayonetta.
No, you're right. Yeah. And it gives me vibes from both of those games, and that's one of the big reasons why I'm all on board for this. So
it's funny how like there's always one of these games out there at any given. They're never all at once.
Nope.
But they sort of Ninja Gaiden goes away and Devil May Cry comes back. Devil May Cry goes away and Bayonetta comes back, and then Bayonetta goes quiet and this comes back, and as soon as this dies down, Bayonetta 3 will be here.
Yeah.
It's like there's always like one big character action game sort of waiting in the wings. Maybe that's why maybe that's kind of why these things maybe still sell as well as they do is because that audience is only served every once in a while. And
and these games are kind of an acquired taste. Like you can't just like mash buttons and make your way through them, and that'll frustrate a lot of casual players. So maybe ultimately Capcom's doing the right thing with this. Game looks awesome. Obviously the visuals are incredible, and
I think they will get a fair number of people that maybe haven't played Devil May Cry before jumping in just because it looks so good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And some of those people will figure it out. Some of those people will get it.
Yeah. I mean, it worked for Dark Souls.
Yeah.
But then you think about Dark Souls, it sells a couple million.
It sells about 3-4 million. Yeah. And that's plenty for.
Yeah, I'm sure Capcom will be happy with that for DMC 5. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not Square. We're good. Yeah.
Yep. So there you go. Devil May Cry 5 was the top of the SIFTD countdown for the most important games of Gamescom 2018. And now that I've seen it in action, I think I'm okay with that pick. So. Now we're going to talk about a game called The Dark Pictures. Man of Medan. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that. It's Supermassive's brand new game. Supermassive is it a Sony first party studio now?
I don't know. Maybe.
Wait.
Supermassive?
Yeah.
I don't.
They
think
did Until
so.
Dawn.
I don't think. No, they are not owned by Sony, as far as I know.
But its brand new game is, again, The Dark Pictures. It's the first episode of an anthology. So they're setting this up for several games in the series with this first one. Essentially what it's about is you're with a group of friends.
They sure have a groove, don't they?
Yeah, you're with a group of friends. You get on a boat and you go out to dive and find this sunken treasure. Turns out that I think it's a plane that you're investigating or whatever. It's cursed. Mm-hmm. And so you go into the plane, you get cursed, you come out, and that's kind of what sets all the dominoes in motion for the rest of the game. Obviously, a horror game, which I think it's a good studio for that.
That's what they do.
It makes perfect sense. I think it's a PS4 exclusive.
No, it's on everything.
Oh, it is? Well, then that answers my question about it being a first-party studio.
I haven't been able to commit every single Gamescom thing to memory, and I sure don't particularly care about this. But, like, I played Until Dawn and Hidden Agenda. That's probably enough.
Yeah.
They're not great. I mean, they're
like narrative-driven.
Yeah, but it's like I'm sure I'd like them more if I actually missed David Cage's terrible writing, and I needed a horror injection of that every couple of months. But like, no, Until Dawn was pretty good.
I liked it. I had fun with it.
The setup was pretty good, and then like after like everything sort of is once the killer is not, now the characters know what's happening, it just becomes utterly generic nonsense. And then Hidden Agenda was like a cool idea, but then I got like my girlfriend and get people together to like play it, and then it's just embarrassing. It's just like, oh, so this is what storytelling is in video games? It's like, no.
Oh, you mean like people who maybe don't play games that often? And
they're like, oh, this is what games are? It's like, no, it's
they look at you
way
like,
better.
Is this what you're doing all
pretty
the time?
much. Yeah. It was just it's not an exemplar of the medium exactly, and they kind of like because of the nature of how you play it. Like it's appealing for people that like the Jackbox Party Pack kind of thing. It's kind of things like, oh, it's one of those things where you hook your phone in and everybody plays. Let's do that. Oh my God! It was that kind of thing.
It was an FMV game, right?
No,
it wasn't.
No, it was like Until Dawn. The same thing.
I mean, thought for some reason it was FMV.
No, it was. I mean, a lot of it's pre-rendered, but like it was like Until Dawn, except you made choices as a group.
With your mobile phones.
Yeah.
PlayLink. It was a PlayLink game.
Yep. It worked very well technologically. It just wasn't a very good game.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, if it's a story-driven game and the story stinks.
Yeah. It was like playing like a bad like you remember like when Law and Order was super popular and like there were procedurals everywhere and there was like third tier procedurals that just like it was like they hired high school theater actors to do it.
Yeah.
It was like playing a game version of one of those.
Oh,
it was just like one of those like bargain basement like cop shows that just was trying to ride those coattails. It was sort of like it was that level of acting and writing.
Well, it may make you feel better to know that Supermassive also announced another game today called Shattered State. They have not released any media or even screenshots of that game yet, so it's obviously a good ways off. But maybe that will be a game that will appeal to you a little bit more than this one.
Maybe. I mean, that just looks to me... I mean, if you showed me footage of that and told me it was a part of Until Dawn that I didn't see, that I didn't get through, I would believe you. Like, it looks like exactly the same.
Character models look...
Yeah.
It's like when you said they get into a groove, I knew what you were talking about. It's like the character models look
like, I could almost believe that, like, they just use the same character models and claim that they're the actors that work for them. You know, it's like, oh, these characters are just going to play different characters in all our games. It's like, that's clever. You know?
Yeah.
You want to talk about easy way out?
I'm wondering too if, because this is an anthology, if it's episodic.
That's usually what anthology means. It's like it's like a Black Mirror kind of thing.
Right.
So
that's what I figured.
Each installment would be a different story with a similar theme.
Right. Yeah. So I guess we don't know.
Honestly, you could kind of say that Until Dawn and Hidden Agenda are also part of this anthology series because, you know, who's to say?
I will say this, though. The Dark Pictures does give me a little bit of an Uncharted vibe because it has like this real world / supernatural element to it.
Yeah, they're definitely drawing from a different like film genre here.
Yeah.
Like it's more, it's not just a slasher movie. They're kind of trying to do that sort of X-Files-y, Uncharted, Indiana Jones sort of thing. But like, I don't know. It's like the David Cage stuff. It's like, wow, I like that idea. It's too bad you did it.
It's too bad the execution blows.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a chance when it's PS Plus or something.
Yeah, like I said, I did enjoy Until Dawn, but I would never, how you could play that game and get different outcomes.
Yeah.
I finished it. I had no interest in going back and doing that again.
I went back and did a couple. I mean, it does change an impressive amount, like in terms of like what early things can influence other things. Like the branching is impressive in that game, even if the actual presentation is not particularly. So again, it's like a David Cage game in the sense that I was just like, I'm impressed by the tech and how like deep you went on making the decision trees, really separate from each other in certain places. But that doesn't mean I enjoyed doing it.
Right.
It's like which is also true of Detroit. It's like there's places where those trees go crazy far afield, and I appreciate and respect that. But
doesn't mean you like it.
It was still terrible.
Yeah. Next up, The Division 2. Ubisoft, obviously, European company. Gamescom's in Europe. Usually Ubisoft has a big Gamescom, and that's been the case this year already. They started sending out their stuff last night at 1 a.m., and I had to go back to work and curate a bunch of stuff from Ubisoft in the middle of the night. But The Division...
Now you know how all the Europeans watching this show
No, you're
feel.
right. You're absolutely right. And The Division 2 is the game that probably Ubisoft focused on the least at Gamescom. No real big reveals or any new features that were announced. Pretty much it just announced that its release date is March 15th. That March month of next year is starting to look really, really crowded.
Got to squeeze everything in before fiscal year ends.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if this gets delayed.
Possible.
And does not make that fiscal year.
I feel like this, in shades of Watch Dogs 1, I feel like this would be a real strong May release.
Yeah.
If they can afford to push it out of fiscal. I feel like May is like there's going to be very little competition. It's kind of the thing you could settle in and play during the summer. Like, that might not be a terrible outcome if that ends up being what they have to do.
I think it would probably do well in March as well.
Oh, yeah.
Despite the competition that's there.
But I think if it slips past that, that's not a tragedy for it at all.
Yeah. But
maybe a tragedy for people who desperately want to play it.
Yeah.
Earlier, but I'm sure there'll be betas.
Yeah, obviously. I don't know. I think because its release date is when it is, I think that's probably why it was not a big focus at Gamescom for Ubisoft. It's like, look, we still have plenty of time to get people's heads around this game before it comes out. It just seems like it focused more on the near-term stuff.
I bet you'll see a blowout of it at the Game Awards.
Yeah, I don't know if Keighley would take something from a game that has that much media out there already.
Maybe, but I mean, if they want to premiere some new thing, or some,
if they have a new feature or something like that.
New feature, or here's what the limited edition's gonna be, or like, always with Keighley, it always has to be new news. Obviously,
there has to be newsworthy.
Yeah, it has to be a premiere of something.
Yeah,
and I could see them coming up with like, oh, there's a new thing.
Here's what the Dark Zone's like now, or whatever, something along those lines. But all we got was the release date and this trailer that you guys are watching right now, which, again, didn't really reveal much.
Yeah, but I'd say like that or like PSX maybe would be the times to do that. It's not much in I mean, it's like DICE and GDC aren't really... GDC's bumping up against the release date too much, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is coming out the week of GDC.
Yeah, around there.
So that's not going to do it much good. Maybe that final little push over the finish line or whatever.
GDC isn't really a place for that so much.
That's not what it's there for. Are you more excited for the Division 2 than you were for the Verse Division?
No.
No?
Well, I mean, technically, I didn't care about the Division 1 at all until I played the beta and was like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun. And I did. I played it. I got into it, and I bought it, and I played it for a long, long time. This doesn't look any different than the thing I already played 100 hours of, really, so I'm probably going to mostly pass on this.
I am actually more excited for the second one because... I was really excited for the first one, and like you, after I played the beta, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to play this. I had assumed that there would be more to the game than what we played in the beta, when ultimately there really wasn't. But I think the concept is sound and engaging and intriguing, and they didn't realize it with the first game. And I have a feeling that Ubisoft is going to fix a lot of stuff that people didn't like about, well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't assume that, because if we look at other Ubisoft franchises, that hasn't always been the case. The second game doesn't always fix all the problems with the first one. Although Assassin's Creed 2 was a pretty drastic improvement. Watch Dogs 2, it's
an improvement, yeah.
So I'm just assuming that we're going to get something a little better than the first game. And as much as I complained about the first game, I did enjoy it. I ended up spending like 30 hours with it. So.
I spent way more than that. But like, it's one of those things where like, it was like Phantasy Star Online. I played it so much, and it was the same thing so often that I got kind of sick of it. I got kind of like to the point that like even looking at footage of this kind of makes me sort of feel gross. I was like, oh god, I've done this so much. It's like when you like eat a whole bunch of a thing you like, and then like at a certain point you just can't even look at that thing for a couple days.
And you can't eat it again for like a month or whatever.
That's what the Division is to me.
Okay, that's a good analogy.
It's like, I'm not saying I hate chocolate chip cookies, but I ate 20 of them yesterday, and I'm not going to eat another one for a week or so. You know? And in this case, it's like, by a week, I mean like a few years. And I mean, I don't know, if people like rave about it to the point that like, oh my god, it's so much better and different than the first one, then I'll probably give it a shot. But right now, Q1 is so crowded with other stuff that I'm sure I'm going to be busy playing. For instance, Devil May Cry 5, which comes out a week before it.
Yeah.
I got plenty to do without jumping back into that rabbit hole.
Maybe some of these publishers will wise up and avoid the struggle that we just went through during the summer with no games.
Maybe. I mean, some of this is just because stuff has to come out before fiscal year ends.
Absolutely.
You know, like they don't have an option on that. But yeah, I mean, you could do worse than to put stuff out in at least July or August sometimes. Like even, but then of course you have too many people get that idea. You've overcrowded July, and I don't know.
I think July can sustain 4 big games.
Maybe. I mean, I think you're still under the gun of so many people on vacation, and some. At the very least, I would say you could easily get away with releasing more stuff on the Switch because people can take that with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand kind of. It's not like a movie. A movie takes like 2 hours, and you can go see a movie wherever you are.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah. Video games, you kind of have to be home.
Yep, it's true, unless you got a Switch.
Yep.
Next up, we're going to talk about Storm Divers. So, Housemarque, a studio both you and I love, have a ton of respect for all its prior work. For those of you who don't know, they're developers behind Resogun. Every game that they make has voxels in it.
Next Machina.
Tons of twin-stick shooters, side-scrolling shooters.
That also used twin-stick tech. What was that? What was that Metroid-y one they did?
Oh. It was not good. That was one of Housemarque's worst games. I can't remember what it was called, but But yeah, was that the last game? Yeah, it was the last one that Housemarque put out after Nex Machina, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're both big fans of the studio. We have been.
Matterfall, that's what it was.
Matterfall, that's it.
Thank you, Vincent.
Thanks, Vincent. So Housemarque, we're fans of. It's made tons of great games. None of them have sold especially well. About 6 months ago, I believe, Housemarque came out and said, hey, we're changing our ways. We're not going to make these little twin-stick shooter games anymore, side-scrolling shooters.
We decided we like money.
Yeah, and we're going to break out on a new path. They didn't say what that meant at the time, but today we have found out that what it meant was, we're going to make a Battle Royale game. And here it is, Storm Divers.
Not to be confused with Helldivers.
Right. Not to be confused with 20,000 other games that are in the cooker right now, getting ready to come to market. Good move? Smart decision, Matt?
I mean, it looks okay.
Yeah, I mean, it looks better than Radical Heights.
Yeah, it looks like there's building in it, and so they're taking the Fortnite cues, and it actually kind of reminds me of Starhawk.
Yeah,
like it looks,
the look of it.
It looks like a PS3 multiplayer shooter to me. It looks like a Starhawk or a Resistance or not that that's a bad thing. But that's what it reminds me of. It kind of has that brown filtered we're sort of dressed like American Gladiators, but we're also dressed like laser tag.
We're gonna play laser tag.
It's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting kind of future-y sci-fi balance with in art direction.
I mean, I guess that's one thing. We really haven't had a sci-fi battle royale yet.
Yeah. I mean,
Fortnite, is that considered sci-fi?
No. Well, I mean, yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, sorta.
Ish.
It's just this is a less cartoony art style. I don't know.
Every time I see a battle royale game, I try to look at it and say, okay, what's its USP? What's its unique selling proposition? What is it about this game that's going to set it apart and make people actually care? Or more importantly, pull them away from Fortnite or PUBG?
Hover bikes, clearly.
Are you seeing anything in this game along those lines?
No.
Me either.
I mean, I see something that would make me, I'll try it if it's free.
If it's free, yeah.
Like that, and how do you make money off that? Because the reason that Fortnite is such a big money maker is not just because it's free. It was because they got that that critical mass of people. Then out of that huge audience, a certain percentage of them spend money on microtransactions, and that's a ton of money when you have that many millions of people playing.
You have to have the scale.
Yeah,
and it's tough.
Breaking into that is hard, and that's a risk if you're going to try to have your game be free. You might just be instantly bankrupting yourself if Nope doesn't catch on.
That's my fear, Matt.
But then if you want to sell it, how do you justify that?
No one will buy it.
Right.
How do you convince someone who's playing Fortnite for free to pay money to play your game? You can't.
I don't know.
I think that's a strategy that's going to doom you right out of the gate, I think.
Well, it's not something. It's also funny because it's not something that anybody's had to compete with before.
Yeah.
Even when there were things that dominated a particular subgenre, like World of Warcraft or Minecraft, they still cost money. It still costs $20 or whatever to get into Minecraft, and it still costs, or $10 in the alpha, I guess it was, and it still costs, monthly subscription to play World of Warcraft. In this case, we gave this thing away free, and everybody loves it. And how do you drag someone away from that? Maybe you have to put craft in the title. That's the secret.
There are trigger words.
Should have been Stormcraft.
There are trigger words in the gaming industry, though. Absolutely. Certain words that people can slide into a title, and people will know immediately what kind of a game it is.
Whoever's making a Battle Royale game right now, get craft in that title. That's the secret. I'm telling you right now.
Another analogy to that would be MOBAs with League of Legends.
Right.
League of Legends is free. It's the leader in the space. Therefore, every MOBA that has come out afterwards has been free. Nobody charges for MOBAs. So once you kind of set that precedent, it's really hard. You would have to make something that is so mind-blowing that people are just I don't care how much they want me to pay for it, I'll pay for it.
And Riot's got even in that scenario, Riot has such a huge user base that regularly spends, certain percentage spends the microtransaction money. They don't even need to worry about people that go and play something else because they'll always be back.
Yeah.
That investment is there, and that's true of Fortnite as well.
To me, this is a really risky move by Housemarque.
I agree.
It feels like a make or break thing.
I feel like it may have not been when they started it.
Maybe.
Because I feel like this, judging by how it looks and kind of where they are here, it feels like maybe they started this before Fortnite became the juggernaut it is.
I mean, it's
but now you're committed. Like
this game is not Radical Heights. This was not started like 30 days ago.
Clearly not.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of say like maybe when they started this, it did seem like a good idea.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see like I feel like when you're looking at this, the building stuff doesn't look like it quite fits, and that feels like maybe it was a bolted on idea later on.
It also looks more user friendly to me though, and not as complex as Fortnite.
Maybe.
Which could have an appeal to people because you said yourself that you don't like the building part of Fortnite.
No, but
maybe if you simplify it a little bit.
But I'm clearly in the minority on that. Like the building part is part of the high end metagame.
Absolutely,
like I've seen like some of those
it's
videos of guys. They're just building giant towers because like whoever gets like an extra like 10 feet above can then shoot down and they win.
That's the advantage.
And like that's amazing. I mean, I could never do that. Like I don't have that kind of time. But like,
do you think Housemarque maybe should have taken the approach that Don't Nod has taken? Instead of just trying to cash in on the hot new thing, maybe just expand the genres that you're working on a little bit?
Maybe. Like, it would have been a little more interesting if they'd done a Battle Royale voxel game, maybe.
Yeah. Or if they'd incorporated some of their old stuff, like a twin-stick shooter or whatever, into a Battle Royale.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good idea. We're out of here. We're going to go make a game right now. But I don't know. It seems like a reach, man. It feels to me like Housemarque just got desperate, and they're like, "Hey, look at this Battle Royale thing."
I also think that like the notion that the Battle Royale thing is sort of a dead end is a fairly recent revelation.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. Just the last few months.
Yeah, and I think maybe E3 finally drove that home with kind of the response to the Fortnite party and how it was just like, wow, this is all anyone's. The fact that like most mainstream media coverage of E3 was pretty much Fortnite coverage.
It was, yeah.
You know, I think that was kind of the moment where everyone realized like, oh wow, it really is this big and this defining. The fact that I've been to parties and gatherings this summer that had nothing to do with video games, where I was probably the only person my age who still plays games regularly, and all the people were talking about Fortnite because their kids play it constantly. Like, there was that the song that went up, the parody of it's gonna the Black Eyed Peas song. It's gonna be a good night. It's called "It's Time to Stop Playing Fortnite," and it's just like about trying to wean your kids off of Fortnite so they have to go back to school. Like it's impacted
it's a pop culture phenomenon.
It's impacted the culture in a way that I don't think I've seen probably since Minecraft.
Yeah, I mean it's infiltrated sports too. I mean. I know you don't follow football at all, but like this whole preseason, there's been tons of discussion from coaches and general managers in the NFL where they decide how much they think a player is going to be successful or not based upon how much Fortnite they're playing. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
They'll be like, well, he showed real well in the preseason game, but we're having a problem with him staying up too late playing Fortnite. I mean, it is just, and I've talked about it before, there's a receiver for the Steelers, Juju Smith-Schuster. He's a total Fortnite addict. He's now sponsored by like a mouse manufacturer and a keyboard manufacturer, and he's doing live streams on YouTube of him playing Fortnite. It has just turned into this
that's
juggernaut.
The infiltration of the NFL is always kind of the sign that like something has gone fully mainstream. I remember when they started calling the guy in Detroit Megatron. I was like, is that Megatron like the robot Megatron?
Absolutely.
And like it was like, oh, okay. So and that was like around the time I realized like, oh, every single human being I know knows what Optimus Prime is now. Not just because they grew up with him, but because the movies are so big. It's
crossed over
into
other
realms. It became
realms,
a thing people know. And if Fortnite has done that already, then.
Do you see any way, unless like what Black Ops is doing is smart because they have all this other multiplayer suite and they're kind of throwing in Battlefield 5.
And they've got a built-in audience that isn't really the same.
They're going to sell no matter what, no matter how good or bad the Battle Royale mode is.
The Battle Royale mode in that is more of a test bed, it feels. It's not they're not betting the whole farm.
Exactly. Do you see any way where you can create a standalone Battle Royale game at this point and be successful with it?
If I did, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't want to stake my company on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
That's for sure.
And that's exactly
and
what's
I'm not just
right
saying that because we've already seen that happen to at least one person.
Yeah.
whose book will be out soon, for you to find out exactly what went wrong. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, though. I'm going to read that. I'm going to read Cliff's book.
I think a lot of people are going to read Cliff's book. And a lot of the people who are saying, oh, blah, I'm not giving him any money, they're going to read it. They'll be the ones who try to find it for free on the internet somewhere, but they're going to read it. There's just too much potential juicy stuff in Cliff Bleszinski's book to not read it. So, yeah, by the way, that's another story from this week. Cliff is writing a memoir.
Right.
About everything, about his days at Epic and about the whole boss key thing and all that stuff. So,
and
keep an eye on your local bookstore. Do those even exist anymore?
Yeah, here and there.
There aren't many left.
I look forward to the tour.
Yeah.
I want to go see Cliff do readings from his new book at Barnes & Noble over at the Grove so I can get it signed.
That's great. So I guess to close up on Storm Divers, I wish Housemarque the best. I have a lot of respect for that studio. I love what it's always done.
I just hope they have a backup plan.
I'm really nervous about it. I mean, if they were in such financial dire straits that they had to bail essentially on their development Bible, this game failing could be fatal for that studio.
Yeah, that's my concern. I mean, I don't care one way or the other if a Battle Royale game does well or doesn't, because I don't really play them, and if I did, I'd probably just play Fortnite and that'd be it.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the main thing is I really hope this is not for all the marbles, because I think they're going to have to go home if that's the case.
Yeah, it very well could be.
Yeah.
That's the truth. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a studio that we just discussed when talking about Storm Divers, and that is Don't Nod. Don't Nod becoming one of the most prolific game developers in the entire video game industry at this point, Matt. There is no other studio turning out as many projects as Don't Nod.
And now they've got a TV deal.
It's insane.
For Vampire. Vampire's going to have a TV series.
But that's I know. And that's an example, though, of small studio going in a new direction, but doing it right.
But also, I think, and maybe Housemarque could have taken a cue from this.
Exactly.
What have they done? They're exploiting an area that is underserved right now, the single-player, story-driven game.
You're right. Yeah.
No one else is making, on that level, games like there's nothing else like Vampire. Like, we were comparing it to like Mars Warlogs and the Technomancer, which are like C-list, Eurojank game. And there's Eurojank.
There's a little Eurojank in Vampire.
For sure, but Don't Nod stuff is much higher profile.
Yeah.
And and they're doing kind of that thing, and then they're doing sort of Telltale's formula, but with like modern technology and an edgier idea with it's not as beholden to licenses. That's the other impressive thing is like Telltale got where they are by leveraging very, very popular licenses and telling original stories with them. Don't Nod has gotten there by telling original stories. Period.
Yep.
And so I think Don't Nod shows, and God of War as well. I mean, if you want to go crazy, AAA, but like it shows that like there is an audience for these single-player, story-driven, games that like. And not just story-driven games in terms of Telltale stuff, but in terms of like an action RPG like Vampire. There's an audience for that, and you can build a whole company on that if you can deliver every time, and I think they have.
In general, yeah. Anyway, the game that Don't Nod is showing, the new game, is called Twin Mirror. It actually was announced a few months ago. They put out like a very vague teaser trailer. This is kind of
E3 they showed it.
Yeah, this is the first kind of real look at it, although even this trailer doesn't show much or give much away. Essentially, you play as a man with split personalities. There's going to be 3 episodes, and the first episode comes out in 2019.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're at the point where you're just mostly trying to intrigue people.
Yeah.
This looks like more of a Life is Strange sort of thing than a Vampire sort of thing.
Yeah. It's a narrative-driven game.
I mean, I think Don't Nod at this point gets my benefit of the doubt, no matter what. Unless Life is Strange 2 is terrible. I mean, we'll see.
Do you see Don't Nod, though, kind of getting to the same place Telltale is? Where, no?
No. Because they've already... The other thing about Don't Nod is that, you look
Not
at...
that being where Telltale is a bad thing. I mean,
no, but like I think Telltale has definitely lost some steam in the sense that they're still leaning on 7-year-old technology, and it's been creaky for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, and B, like they kind of tell the same sort of stories over and over. I mean, like you know, kind of, it's sort of like, when you play the Guardians of the Galaxy game, and in the first episode they kill Thanos, that's not what's happening, and something's going to change that, and everything's going to go back to normal by the end.
Right.
Like,
You're right.
like it's sort of, all their stuff is sort of like starts here, goes back to again, and ends in the same place. And Walking Dead, on the other hand, made a splash because it wasn't that.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Whereas I think there's a little too much, and it depends on which game, I guess. And sometimes it's more about the journey, like with The Wolf Among Us. But I think they tend to return to the status quo a little too much, and I think that is by the end of each season. And I think part of the main reason that happens is because they're dealing with licenses that they're beholden to kind of continue. You have to keep propagating it. If you want to do another season of that, then everything has to be back in the place it was so you can exploit the license again. And I think Don't Nod is not under any kind of, delusion that is the way to go if you don't have to answer to a licensee. So you're not seeing that in Life is Strange. In Life is Strange 2, you're not going to be playing as Max again. Life is, they're doing a completely different thing that's in the quote same universe, just like Captain Spirit.
Right.
Vampire doesn't really end off with like let's do a sequel kind of thing. Vampire can go some real crazy directions if you decide to play it the way you play it.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're not going to rest on their laurels and start telling, stuff by rote or not updating their tech just because that's how Telltale did it. I think Don't Nod recognizes Telltale's flaws, and I think you can see that in how Life is Strange plays itself out, because Life is Strange in some ways to me is an answer to Telltale's formula, and a way of saying like, hey, there's another way to do this, and there's a way to do it that, frankly, is a little more thoughtful and a little more thematically consistent, and I appreciate that about what they've done.
Yeah, I appreciate it too, but the thing is anything that feels new now won't feel new 7 years later. That's what we're at. Where we're at with Telltale.
Yeah.
When we played The Walking Dead, we're like, it's a point-and-click adventure game, but it's got this something special, a little different about it. Obviously, it had the branching storylines that were supposed to impact things later on down the line. I'm starting to see kind of that samey feel from Don't Nod stuff. Like,
how? There's only been one game.
Well, no, there's Life is Strange, there's Captain Spirit, now we're seeing this one.
Yeah, but like we don't know what that's going to be.
We'll talk about Life is Strange 2 here in a minute.
But we don't know anything about that. I mean, if Life is Strange 2 turns out to be that, then okay. But right now there's no trend. It's just Life is Strange. And Captain Spirit, I'm not going to judge anything because that's sort of a one-off free game. I don't expect it to be tremendously ambitious, although I thought it did.
It was good.
Have a bunch of moments where I'm just like, I don't want to make this decision.
Yeah, I'm not burnt out on this at all yet. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to extrapolate out 7 years. Basically, I'm trying to put us in the position with Don't Nod where we are with Telltale right now.
I just don't think you can predict that right now because Don't Nod isn't Telltale, and they've gone to great lengths to show they aren't. I mean, the mere fact that Vampire is what it is says to me that they're not just going to make the same game over and over again. They might make the same two games over and over. Maybe they'll just make action RPGs over and over again, and they'll make
alternating between
just back and forth. But like, I'm not really worried about that with them yet. They're going to have to show me in the same way that Telltale would have to prove to me in future games that they are willing to break the mold and do something new and use a new engine for God's sake. Don't Nod's going to have to prove to me that they are falling into a rut. Like, I just don't see that from them yet.
Do you think the real problem with Telltale, though, is the graphics engine, or is it the design?
It's a bit of... I think the design is in some ways constrained by the graphics engine. I don't think you can do a ton with that engine they haven't already done, even if it's just a simple... I mean, I don't know much about that kind of thing, but it seems to me that certain things in Telltale games never get above a certain scale. They never get above a certain scope.
No, you're absolutely right.
And it feels like that might just be not because the writers can't imagine something larger than a decent-sized ballroom,
right,
but because the engine just can't do it. Or they can't make it work and make it work on all the different platforms it has to work on. Because the other thing is Telltale's their stuff is on everything. You have to keep that in mind, that you have to be able to scale it, and it's not even something like, the Switch or whatever might not be able to run this with a good frame rate. Maybe the engine can't be optimized to do that on the Switch. Maybe the Switch could do it, but the engine is what it is. It's from 2011.
Or we can't run this on the iPhone 6.
Right, that too.
I mean, the Telltale stuff goes all the way down to mobile.
I mean, to me, you're in the same boat as like the Bethesda thing, where it's like, if you keep trotting out this zombified, like, Frankenstein version of Gamebryo. Like, you're never going to get past, and I think Fallout 4 is the biggest victim of that, where it's like Fallout 4 is struggling against the tech it has to work with. Mm-hmm. And I think you've seen similar things I mean, going back as far as I'd say the first season of Batman with Telltale, I felt like it was pushing against the tech they had to work with. It wanted to tell a bigger, sort of like more dynamic thing, but that's just not what that engine's designed to do, or what their permutation of it is designed to do. And I feel like it's being held back at this point. And I don't mind how they look graphically. I don't mind the art style, the graphical look of. I think they look fine. But I would like to see a little more. I don't know. It's sort of like how I feel like a lot of like.
What's the opposite word of epic?
I don't know. Like, it's like if you watch like the DC movies and they feel like they all took place in someone's living room. Even when they expand everything out digitally, like it looks like it's clearly shot on this little. That's how I feel.
Shot on a green screen stage. Yeah.
But that's how I feel a lot. I feel a similar way about Telltale stuff in the last few years. No,
you're right. You very rarely ever get a shot of like a sweeping vista or
like an establishing shot, but like not in the middle.
You just
of
see
something.
the house,
and
that's like it. Yeah. You don't see like all the area surrounding it.
Whereas I don't feel that in like Life is Strange has all those long shots on the on the hill and the
well, there's all those shots
on
the shore where it's pulled like all the way back. Yeah, I mean they're definitely totally different.
Yeah, because it's more modern. It's like that's what they need to do. And like I'm not knocking Telltale's talent there. I'm just saying like. And I'm sure it's just like, oh, we got the iron's hot. We got to keep doing it. We got to crank this stuff out for these licensors that are like giving us this stuff. We got to get, it's got to be timely. For God's sake, something like Guardians of the Galaxy, you got to get thank God they got it out last year, not this year.
No, you're right.
After all the controversy with Gunn.
Yep.
So on one hand, I don't blame them, but on the other hand, it's like I hope they got somebody behind the scenes. I mean, I think recently there was a bunch of people that got laid off over there at Telltale, if I remember right. I might be
well,
totally
I know
wrong.
their head PR person, who had been there for a long time, left. I don't know what the conditions were, whether he was let go or he decided to leave on his own, but he had been there since Telltale started its run back in, what was that, 2012, 2010? Mm-hmm. And he just recently left. And he already got a new job at a publisher because he was great and he's an awesome guy. But yeah, it was very weird to hear that he was leaving because he loved working there. He would tell you how much he loved working there. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I mean, Telltale hasn't really had a hit for a while now, if you think about it. Like, Batman, I think, did okay. Mm-hmm. But
it's certainly not part of the conversation really anymore.
Nope. No, and a lot of that, I think, is goes back to what you're saying. The games look antiquated at this point. Mm-hmm. And the gameplay always kind of was antiquated. And now that you don't have kind of the technical prowess
Well, it's also like, I liked them, 6 years ago in the wake of Walking Dead more because no one else was doing that.
Right.
Because I love all those old point-and-click adventures and stuff like that, and that was a dead genre for the most part, except like, Dreamfall, or The Longest Journey with the Kickstarter, and like, there was always like another Siberia threatening to come out for the last 10 years.
They're all bad typically. A lot of point-and-click stuff.
There was little things like Gemini Rue or stuff like stuff like that. Colpa Annata, that was a good one. But they're few and far between, and you had to really search them out. And in the wake, in the wake of the success of The Walking Dead, I think a lot of them really sprung up, and like I love all the Wadjet.
Oh, they're like, this is viable again.
Yeah, all the Wadjet Eye stuff, which I think all their stuff is great. They just had a new one come out, I think called Unawakening, or I can't remember what it was.
They just announced a new one too.
It just came out. It was it takes place in the same universe as the Blackwell games, and you play as someone who basically like murdered like half a city or something while they were possessed by a demon, and now they're not possessed by a demon, but everybody knows you did it. But like you have to it's almost like an Angel or Buffy thing, where you're working for like. You're working for like a group that's like trying to clean up all the demon stuff, but you are the one that caused everything, and so you're kind of like, it's a cool idea. They got some good, but like that's the other thing is like now there's stuff like that. Why would I settle for a Telltale thing when I can play these more, or stuff like Thimbleweed Park, or even something like Night in the Woods? Yeah. That kind of story-driven adventure gamey kind of thing that just didn't exist 8 years ago. That is now like a big subgenre, and so kind of this whole this is as good as we got thing that Telltale sort of had for a while. Because there was a period where it was like even the stuff that annoyed you about Telltale was like, well, yeah, but I mean, what else am I going to play?
Yeah.
And now I don't feel like that's true.
Yeah, there's other stuff to play.
So, I mean, if you want kind of more traditional adventure games, those are everywhere now, thanks to the indie scene. And if you want more, more like what Telltale does, but with like more polish and more, frankly, adult storytelling, Life is Strange is right there.
Better writing, yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move along. We have a couple small things we're going to talk about. Halo the Master Chief Collection was announced for Xbox One X today, enhanced for Xbox One X. Think they'll fix the servers?
Well, they've been working on that for months. Like they announced that months and months. I mean, I remember I brought that up.
They put out a trailer for it today.
I mean, they've been on the test stuff for a long time. They've been tweaking and have most of the campaign stuff has been available on the whatever the Xbox Insider thing. Like you've been able to opt into that since like June. But I mean, I've been following this because I've been wanting to replay the Halo games, but I wanted to wait until they did this, and then they announced like in like December or January that this was coming in July, which it did not. But they swear to God it's coming in September or something like that.
They also swear that they fixed the server issues.
Well,
I'll believe that when I...
Well, I mean, they're doing it right now. You can go opt in and go play. I mean, they seem to be functioning to some degree. I haven't been following super closely, but because I care more about the campaigns than the multiplayer. But the other thing, I mean, the thing is basically they said, and Frank O'Connor was part of the, I trust Frank.
Yeah,
like he's straight up about everything, and he straight up said he's like one of the things. Fixing this basically required a reworking of the back end of the Xbox OS.
Jeez.
Like the Xbox One OS, like the big overhaul that happened a while ago finally gave them the opening to do that, and so that's why it's happening 4 years later, and because they didn't want to obey. 343 is still very upset about it internally. They're like. None of this is part of the problem that as they see it, is they farmed out a lot of the work on the Master Chief Collection and didn't do it themselves because they were busy with Halo 5 and Halo 4. I don't remember the timing on that, but like, so now they've taken everything in house. All the patch and everything they're doing here is in house. They're doing it all themselves.
No excuses now.
No excuses. They're up there right there saying like this is going to work if it kills us, basically. So I mean,
has this work been worth it?
I think from a community relationship standpoint, yes.
Yeah, because being a new developer on Halo, you have to do something. You have to throw them a bone.
And maybe it would be different if like the reception of 4 and 5 were like just universally ecstatic, but it wasn't.
That hasn't
and
been
like
the case,
I think keeping that level of goodwill up and going back and making this work again is probably a smart choice, because just like what I said with Devil May Cry 5, you have to keep those core fans happy. And there's a lot of core fans of Halo.
Oh, absolutely.
And Halo has felt more and more irrelevant the last several years, certainly this generation.
Yeah.
And they're about to jump in with sort of this, what looks like it might be almost like a soft reboot kind of thing with Halo Infinite.
That's what it looks like.
And like, you gotta have those diehards on board. And one of the ways to kind of win back a little bit of trust from them is to correct this big mistake and give them something to play that they love, and give them something to play that doesn't feel like it's a broken mess that they paid for. And I think it's pretty cool that they're going to do. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. I totally agree with someone who says that. Like, this is, they don't get points for this. Some people are like, they don't get points for this because it shouldn't happen in the first place. And I'm like, you're not wrong. Like, but like, I'm excited to play these games in 4K. They look great. Like it's certainly kind of the definitive version of these games at this point. I'm certainly more of a fan of Halo 1, 2, and 3 than the later stuff. So, and especially ODST, which is in there too. Hopefully they get the same treatment, because I know the ODST is not included in the current beta patches, but I think it's supposed to be part of the final product or whatever. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. If it wasn't supposed to be, I think I'd be angry about it. So I feel like they said that was going to be good. I love ODST.
I do too. It's great. Underrated Halo game.
Yeah, so it might be my favorite Halo game.
So a lot of people say that.
Like, which is weird because I'm a big I want Master Chief, but like the one I like the best is the one you never played with Master Chief.
Quick sidebar before we move to the next game. 343 just came out and had to make a statement saying, yes, Halo Infinite is really Halo 6.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they have just called it Halo 6?
Not if they're trying to do that soft reboot thing.
Yeah.
I think they want to draw a line. I think, and I've said that since E3. There was skepticism. Oh no, no, this is Halo 6. I said that. multiple times. Like, this is Halo 6, clearly. But they don't want to call it Halo 6 because at a certain point, the numbers get unwieldy. Because you just feel like,
oh, ridiculous.
Well, now there's 5 games I got to play before I understand what's happening in Halo 6, right?
Yeah.
And then at some point, if I was in charge of the storytelling in Halo, I would be like, okay, we have to pivot so hard off of the bullshit from 4 and 5 because the stories in both those games are garbage.
They really are bad.
And like you just have to get away from it and do something new and maybe like wrap up some of the threads from 4 and 5, but like your main goal needs to come up with a reason for Halo to still exist from a narrative point of view, which they have not found for 2 games.
No, you're absolutely right.
And I mean, multiplayer, great. All that's fine. Like, you don't need to come up with that for that. Everything's going fine for what for whatever people prefer, don't like, whatever. But in terms of like Halo's identity as a massive epic shooter campaign story that spans the universe, they have not figured out a reason to keep telling that story since Halo 3.
No, you're right.
And I mean, Halo Reach was fine. Halo Reach was fine. Prequel, kind of like a Last Man Standing, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid kind of Last Stand thing. Awesome. I enjoyed it. It was cool. You got to meet some new Spartans with different types of abilities. That was cool. Great. But in terms of continuing the story beyond Halo 3, they have not found that narrative thread or that narrative reason yet. And if I were them, that would have been the thing that I took that extra year or year and a half they've taken on this to really nail down why are we still doing this. And because it but that's not a good enough answer. Like that's not a good answer from a creative standpoint. If that's why you're doing it.
I agree with you.
If that's why you're doing it, go Black Ops 4. Just make multiplayer.
Yeah.
But if you're going to keep trying to tell me this story, you need to figure out why you're telling me this story.
By not calling it Halo 6 though, you are making your job more difficult because you already had to come out and say, oh no, this is Halo 6, we're just not calling it Halo 6. You start talking about the casual folks, maybe they start thinking it's more of like an ODST thing or a Reach thing.
Honestly, at this point, I consider that an advantage.
You do, because you love ODST and you like Reach.
Well, no,
so
I mean in the sense that like I don't think, look, the last thing I think most people are looking at, especially from the casual point of view, from what I've seen from my friends who are kind of, they used to be Halo fans, and now they're like, oh, I like the multiplayer, but the campaign, I only got past. They mostly stopped after they got to the second repetition of the boss.
Yeah.
In 5.
Understandable.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And and I'm fighting Prometheans over and over. These giant bullet sponge morons that I don't even enjoy killing. Which is like, that's half the point of Halo.
I hate the dogs.
The dogs are terrible. It's all bad. Like
I like the concept of having like the symbiotic enemies where they kind of rely on each other. They're kind of tethered together. I like the concept.
That's a very Halo idea, but the execution's not
good.
And the fact that they just like they doubled down in 5 is
the dogs are the worst though.
But like
they're the worst.
Frankly, if I say, oh, well, because Halo 6 to me makes me think, oh, more stuff like 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Halo Infinite makes me think, oh, maybe this will be different and better.
That's a good point.
I don't think differentiating it from 4 and 5, even to the more ignorant casual audience, I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
I just think 343 is going to be answering questions about this until the day it's released.
Sure. But better that than people like, oh, 6? No.
Oh, so this is 6, just like 5
just another
and
4 and 5? Yeah. Because frankly, that would be my reaction.
Yeah.
Like, and I am pretty much a casual Halo fan at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I played through the campaign once, and I play a little bit of multiplayer, and that's it. I never go back to it again.
I don't stick with Halo multiplayer anymore.
I used to be a huge Halo fan.
I'll play it, me too. I mean, I think everybody was.
And look, like
but
part of that,
I used to play multiplayer for months. Now I play the multiplayer for a couple weeks.
Right, and part of that, of course, is there was a little je ne sais quoi, so they say, of Bungie and that team, and they've kind of dispersed. A lot of them went to Bungie went to Destiny, and so you lose a little bit there. There's still some of the originals kind of doing it, but it's honestly, it's a little bit like the Star Wars situation right now. You've still got a bunch of people that have been at Lucasfilm forever, but they're not really the same, are they? For better or worse. Like, they're not really the same thing. And then you end up with something like Solo. And it's just like, well, that is, every check mark is checked off in that. It's a Star Wars movie, but I'm really bored. And that was, honestly, I thought of Halo when I watched Solo and was bored halfway when the Kessel Run ended, and I thought, is there another act to this damn movie? Is this not over yet?
If you didn't like a Star Wars movie,
that's
bad.
And I mean, that's how I felt like every time I finished like a boss battle in Halo 5. I'm like, is this game not over yet? Are we still dragging this Act 1 out? Like, we're still doing this?
That's the worst when you're dragging your butt through a video game. We have to do it all the time because we have to play games we don't necessarily really want to play.
Well, Halo was even worse because I always played it. I always played it with this one group online. It was the same group of 3 other people online, and there was a point at which, like, 2/3 of the way through Halo 5, where someone was like, "Is anyone still enjoying this?
Are we having fun?"
And we're like, "No, not." It's like, so we just want to finish it and go. Yeah, let's finish it and get done with it. Like that was it. And I looked, man, I didn't realize. I looked it up, and I had like almost 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements on Halo 5. We did everything in that game. Like we always would. Every time a Halo game came out, we'd go in and we'd grind. You know, I got 1,000 out of 1,000. All the achievements on 3 and Reach and ODST, and I mean we did all those crazy things like carry the ball or whatever from like this port to this point, and all that stuff. We did all that stuff, all that those weird stupid human trick achievements and stuff, and like we had a good time. It was a bonding experience, and it was a lot of yelling and hitting each other, but like we still got there. And Halo 5, it was just there's a point where everyone just didn't sign on the next day.
Yeah,
and that's death for those games.
It is. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that's been around for quite a while, but Ubisoft will not let it die. That game is For Honor. And Ubisoft today announced an arcade mode for Honor that's a PvE option that's kind of like a traditional fighting game in a lot of ways.
Interesting. I hadn't seen this.
Oh, really?
I missed this, which is funny because I like For Honor.
Yeah, you do. And you played this a ton.
I did, yeah.
But it's like... it's kind of like a traditional fighting game. The cool thing about it, though, is that everything that you do in this mode carries over into the other modes. So any progress, any new gear that you get, anything like that will carry over into the other options, which will obviously encourage people to play it, or at the very least, not discourage them from playing it.
Right.
Because if there are certain modes in games where I'm like, it's discrete, and anything you do there doesn't count anywhere else, I think twice about playing those modes. I hate to admit it, but I just absolutely do. If there are other options where I know whatever time I'm going to spend on it is actually going to help me out in the long run, I'm much more apt to play that other mode than one that isn't tied into the rest of the game. So, honestly, Ubisoft has really kind of made all the right decisions with this game.
Yep.
It's been pretty remarkable.
I mean, it sold better than I think they ever expected it to, but like certainly better than I expected it to. I thought this was going to be niche of a niche.
Yeah.
I mean, but it just goes to show, like even stuff like The Crew. I mean, they kept that going for 4 years or something.
Yeah.
Like, I did notice The Crew 2 was on sale for half price a couple weeks ago. That was it
Not
begins.
a surprise.
I mean, I like this game. I had a really good time playing it around the time it came out. I did try to get back into it when they did that big sort of like revamp free weekend thing a month or two ago. It wasn't too bad. I mean, obviously I'm outclassed horrendously by the people who've been playing like the whole time.
Yeah.
But like it didn't feel unfair. It felt like I just wasn't up to par with them. And that's one of the things I like about For Honor is outside of the odd sort of, a ping problem here and there. It feels when you lose a fight against another player, it feels like it's because you did something stupid or because they're better than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is like kind of the holy grail of online multiplayer. Is
right.
a game where you feel like I understand why I got killed there. It was either my fault or I didn't know how to adjust to what that person did. It's not like you're getting killed and going like, what the hell was that? It's like so I appreciate that a lot. And the fighting game parallels are obviously maybe it's because I understand kind of the fighting game idea a little better, so maybe I just see it clearer. And like maybe when I go, what the hell was that in a shooter, it's just because I don't understand what I'm looking at. That's entirely possible.
You can also play this cooperatively with one other person, which is awesome.
I can't really fault Ubisoft for anything they've done with this game.
Nope.
Except maybe forcing that dude out I liked a lot.
That is a little weird.
But,
I wonder how he feels seeing how big this game has become.
I feel like that this wasn't what he wanted it to be to some weird degree. Like it seemed like he didn't
No, actually, he may be right, man. Maybe that's why he left. He was not happy with the direction the game was going.
Yeah. I mean,
and Ubisoft's like, hey, bro, like look at the numbers.
You can love the Renaissance Fair as much as you want, but if 100,000 people show up, you're not going to have as good a time as you used to.
Next up, we already talked about this a little bit. Dark Souls Trilogy announced today. Coming out October 19th, includes all 3 games, all the DLC for $80. Comes in a steel case.
A little steep. I mean,
think it is for 3 games, $80?
If you wait for the right Steam sale, you can get all 3 of those games for like $20.
Can you really?
Yeah, they're they go on deep discount pretty often. Like
Okay.
I mean, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin is regularly like $9 on a bunch of sales. I have that and 3 on PlayStation 3. PlayStation 4 purely because they had such crazy deep discount sales at one point. I'm like, oh, that's easy. I'd like to have them all on PS4. Cool. So I would say like
Now, what if you bought all 3 plus all the DLC?
the DLC tends to comes with Scholar of the First Sin
does.
and Dark Souls Remastered. So the
Gotcha,
only thing
gotcha.
that has separate DLC right now is Dark Souls 3. So I mean, part of it is to have a physical copy of all these things in a nice steel case. I get that. That's cool. $80 is about what it would cost to buy Dark Souls Remastered, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, and Dark Souls 3 with a DLC without any discounts. So it's like it's a fair price from a non-discounted point of view. But if all you want is the games, I would say you can get them digitally way cheaper if you just have a little bit of patience.
Even on consoles?
Oh yeah. Like I said, PS4. I got Dark Souls 1 Remastered, not so much. But I got 2 for, I think it was $9. And Scholar of the First Sin is the remastered Dark Souls 2 with all the DLC included and the Scholar of the First Sin stuff, and 60 frames per second on the consoles, $9. Dark Souls 3, you're probably more like 20, but like it's the maximum amount you could possibly charge for.
So you're
these
saying they
games.
priced it perfectly, basically?
Yeah, they priced it at the maximum amount, and then they made that thing. I think they said, and I think Wario64 reinforced it, that like there's only gonna be a limited number of physical copies of this. So if you want it, order it. And I actually
Did you order it?
I did. I ordered it for Xbox because I don't have any of the games on Xbox.
Oh, okay. And you can play it on your X, obviously.
Yeah, and I like, it's a nice steel case, a nice little sort of like trilogy. Boom,
Yeah, boom,
we're done.
right there it is, yeah.
And I actually saw people on Twitter and on Facebook reacting like, oh, I don't want it, I already have, and it's too much, like $80, and da-da-da. And then like they announced, oh, it's gonna be really, pre-order now if you want to make sure because a limited number. And like, okay, I just
Click,
pre-ordered.
click,
It's like,
click,
yeah, it's
click.
instant. It's like all you got to do is create that feeling of scarcity.
Oh, yeah.
And boom.
Even if it's not even like confirmed with the publisher, is that
Yeah.
air of it, that
Because I mean, all this is what's already out
yeah.
in one
Yeah.
steel case.
To me, I think for most people, at least console owners, I think they're going to look at this as a great deal.
Not if they've been ever looking at the prices on the digital stores.
Yeah.
Like these games go on discount regularly and for real good prices.
So I got Dark Souls, the first one, for free
Yeah.
from like free games with gold or whatever.
Yeah. Well, this one is way better than that because
Yeah.
it's the remastered.
It's remastered,
version.
right.
If only in the sense that it runs at twice the frame rate and it runs pretty steady in places that used to tank the frame rate in the original.
Yeah.
But it's just a bundle of the existing ones, and it's cool. It's it's not the nice package that Japan got with all the extra bonus stuff
Right.
that cost like some crazy amount of money.
Yeah, it was like $800 or something,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
but it was
like insane.
But it's it's at least something, and it's a nice little steel book to have on your shelf that collects all of them in one place, and you're done.
So this really means there's never going to be another Dark Souls, right?
I wouldn't say never, but like probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
Once you do something like this, you're kind of putting a cap on it.
I think they've implied that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they made another game like it, but like they wouldn't call it Dark Souls
Right.
4 or anything
Yeah.
like that. We did get a Sekiro release date,
Yeah, we did.
so that's on the way.
Yeah.
That's March
That's also
something too. Yeah.
March is going to be insane. Like,
Yeah.
literally, you have to spend your money really
And
wisely.
actually, Sekiro going more or less toe to toe with Devil May Cry 5 is interesting because that's more of a Devil May Cry style game
yeah.
now.
More so than
More
like
so than the Dark
Souls
Souls
game.
games. Yeah. Yeah. What a March that's going to be.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So I think Dark Souls is over for the time being, but it wouldn't shock me to see them do another Souls-alike later on. I don't know how it's already the Soulsborne games. If they add another title to it, I don't know what we're going to call them.
Does this have any impact on the Switch version of Dark Souls Remastered?
I don't think
They're coming out the same day,
Same
right?
day,
Yeah.
but it's like, I think if you want Dark Souls 1 on the Switch, you want it on the Switch. Like, it's not gonna. I don't think this is gonna stop you because like, look, Dark Souls 1 is half the frame rate on the Switch. The resolution's low. It's certainly not it's the worst
not
version.
Not the definitive version.
No,
it's
the
game.
worst version by. It's objectively the worst version of the remastered Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to buy it, they're buying it because they want it on the Switch for portability or whatever. I can't imagine wanting to play these games portable, like just without the pause function or anything like that.
I know.
But like, if that's what they want, if that's what someone wants, the availability. These games are already available on the other platforms.
Yeah.
They could buy everything in that trilogy pack right now, digitally. Like they could just go buy it right now on PSN or Xbox Live Store, whatever the hell you call. Is it the Microsoft Store now?
Yeah.
They could just go buy that right now if they wanted to. Probably about the same price.
No, you're probably right.
But that trilogy thing is for people, collectors and fans who want a nice steelbook that contains everything. And it's a nice looking package.
It is, absolutely.
So I don't think there's a lot of competition there. There might be people that are upset because they got to buy two things.
70% of Switch owners own either a PS4 or Xbox One.
So that 30% is stuck, and the remaining 70%, most of them are probably going to buy both of them.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah, you're probably right. Just to play it on the go.
Which is funny because there was that conspiracy theory about like how they delayed the Switch version so to convince people to double dip from buying the remaster on the other platforms, and then they'd be forced to buy it on the Switch as well. And I'm like, well, now it's like, again, like it's like, okay, so now they're going to triple dip you.
Right.
Because what about the people on the other platforms that paid $40 for the Dark Souls remaster, and now that Dark Souls remaster is in this collection again, and they want to buy it again?
Well,
like,
it was all bull crap.
People got to have like 5 copies of Dark Souls 1 at this point.
Seriously. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about...
so am I. I mean, I did it. I pre-ordered it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You were clicky.
Prepared to die.
Again.
Again and again and again. Again.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Soul Calibur 6. Bandai Namco today showed off the single-player mode in Soul Calibur 6 for the first time. It appears that you create your own character.
A Soul Calibur staple.
Yep, which is not out of the ordinary whatsoever. It appears there's also lots of cosmetics and loot in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't turn into a microtransaction nightmare.
Actually, you know what? I thought of that, and the other thing I thought is if they show the map screen in this at some point, and you choose to where to go. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Well, it shows you they choose where to go, and it says how much it costs to go to those places. And I'm like, I bet you're selling that currency for real money if we want.
No, you're right. That was very perceptive that you picked up on it, showing an in-game currency.
Like
right
I'm
there.
sure, like you can get the currency just by playing, but you obviously are gonna be able to buy it like $9.99 for 100,000 whatever, because that's a gating mechanism that you don't need in a single player game unless you are doing something.
No,
you're
absolutely right. What was the
not to get all conspiracy microtransaction theory on you, but like.
I don't think at this point it is.
With Namco, that's not really a huge leap, I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, these people sell you, jet paint jobs with anime characters on it for like $5 a piece. I mean, these guys know they can milk you for it.
What was the Soul Calibur game for Wii? I can't remember the name of the subtitle was for that.
Was that Legends?
It was that weird, like action-adventure take on it that was very weird.
Yeah, it was like a weird kind of broken story mode kind of. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember what the name of that was.
I played that whole thing. I think I had to review it for GT or something. That was torture.
It was like.
But I'm getting a little bit of that vibe of that game from this single-player thing.
Well, this reminds me of like pretty much all the single-player stuff they've done since 3. You create a character, you go through kind of not a bare bones thing, but sort of like it's almost like a series of survival modes or ladder modes, which is fine. And it looks like there are actual cutscenes, and there's actually going to be some cutscenes that try to explain why Geralt is there.
That should
which
be
is
fun.
Like Soul Calibur does have a history of a lot of characters getting sucked through portals.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's exactly how.
Certainly, how they explained why the Star Wars characters were there at the time.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I'm glad it has
one.
one.
Out for everything. I just got sucked through a portal.
I'm glad it has one. Like
instead of just playing a ladder of opponents one after another.
Like because that's the thing. I think there was one.
Sometimes these campaigns are unintentionally entertaining because they're so bad. They're so poorly written. They're so poorly voice acted.
Well, also the campaign stuff is kind of a Soul Calibur in the sense that Soul Calibur 1, the original Soul, and Soul Blade, both had really robust ones. It was there was a lot going on there, and then it was very disappointing. Like 2 just didn't really have much. 3 tried to do it, but like it was still kind of like a half effort, and the PS2 version had a problem where it would just randomly erase your save. And when you're dealing with a like grindy campaign that like takes 60 hours, like you don't want that.
Which has the better story mode in general? Soul Calibur or Tekken?
I hate Tekken, so Soul Calibur. And honestly, I don't know because
they're very similar. Honestly.
I haven't played the story modes of the last like 4 Tekkens. So.
They're generally flimsy, full of stupidity, absurdity, poor writing, poor voice acting.
They're fighting games.
I would honestly give Tekken a little bit of an advantage because it actually kind of hits that zenith where it's so absurd that it actually almost ends up being kind of entertaining and good in the end. I don't know that Soul Calibur ever does that. It just ends up being just dumb and absurd.
I like Soul Calibur better.
I like playing Soul Calibur better.
So I don't know anything about Tekken's story for the last like 3 or 4 games.
Does it matter?
Probably not.
It definitely doesn't.
I think Tekken's better looking.
Yeah.
This
Soul Calibur, it's a shame to see what's happened to Soul Calibur because it used to be a measuring stick.
Oh, it used to be the cutting edge. But like, they're clearly using a lot of Soul Calibur 5 assets in this game.
Yeah. They've definitely cut some corners.
Which, I mean, it's better than not getting it, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah. Sure. I mean, it's not going to stop me from buying it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty much in because Geralt's in it. Honestly, guest characters have sold me an embarrassing number of these Soul Calibur games.
It means that they're picking them well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I bought the GameCube version of Soul Calibur 2 because Link was in it.
Of course, yeah.
And Star Wars will sell me almost anything. So, yeah. And, Geralt is now it's at the very least
worth the $60.
At the very least, it's got to be in there because it's got to be part of the Witcher collection now.
Oh, you're right.
I've got a whole shelf that's just Witcher stuff.
Oh, wow. Up next, Ace Combat 7, Matt.
It's about freaking time.
Ace Combat 7 got a release date.
Amazing.
It's coming out January 19th.
Q1 needed more.
Holy crap, dude. What has taken so long to make this game?
I don't know. Apparently they decided to, because originally the VR stuff was going to be like a separate mode where you did like these challenges in VR, and then at some point last year they decided, probably because of user feedback and disappointment, to convert the entire campaign to VR.
That was a bad decision.
Well, now they're committed.
It's too late now.
I'll be honest. It's going to make me unpack the PlayStation VR for this. I will definitely play it in VR.
Dude, I would puke so hard.
And it's going to be the first VR game my girlfriend plays because she loves Ace Combat.
Really?
Ace Combat's one of her favorite
Why has
series.
she not played any VR games?
Because she doesn't care.
She just doesn't care about it.
None of them are interesting to her. But flying a plane in VR is super interesting to her.
It'll make me barf all over the place.
It might do that to her too. We don't know yet.
Yeah, she's never
we honestly
tried
don't know.
I wish her better luck than I've had with it.
She's very susceptible to like motion sickness stuff, and and she can't see 3D in 3D with 3D glasses, so we don't even know what's going to happen.
I would test it out on something a little more tame than Ace Combat, just to see if it's going to make you sick.
I don't know. My first VR experience was a flight game. It was the prototype of Eve Valkyrie.
My first one was in the arcades way back in the day.
Well, that wasn't real VR. I'm not talking about Dactyl Nightmare here.
Yeah.
I'm talking about current VR
Legit
stuff.
VR.
And because I played that shit back then too, and it's just like, okay.
Where it had the weird periscope thing that you pulled down and you went like this.
Oh, that was that mech thing. Yeah. I'm talking about.
And then the other ones where you stood in like the raised up platform.
I'm talking about the ring thing.
Yeah, the ring around it.
That's Dactyl Nightmare was the one I played, and it was like it looked like kind of like like race driving or hard driving, like that kind of like.
It looked like worse than N64.
Like you only knew it was a pterodactyl because the title told you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
like everything's made out of like literally like 8 polygons.
Yeah. And but yeah, the first one I played was that, and I did, I don't get nauseous, I don't get anything playing VR, but I put, it was the original, it was the Oculus first developer kit or whatever, and we put it on, and the first time I did like a full evasive roll, I was like, whoa! And one of the what was that, CCCP? It's the Eve guy. One of them comes over and puts his hand on my shoulder, and because I could see that something was.
He's about to flip backwards out of his chair.
And he goes, look down at your body. and I look down at like this the virtual pilot body there, and all of a sudden everything was like, I'm like, oh, we're good.
Clicked
Yeah, I
in.
get it. We're good. And I never got vertigo or anything playing VR ever again.
Wow.
That was the only. That first 5 seconds was like, whoa.
But so you do know how I feel when I play VR.
Oh
then.
yeah, but it went away when I did that, and like suddenly, for whatever reason, something flipped in my brain. I was like, and it's like, oh, we understand what this is now. The only other time anything like that's happened is when I played I was on the Vive, and I downloaded some RPG kind of fantasy thing that I can't even remember the title of now. But it was the first thing I played that allowed you to have full movement control, like real, instead of just teleporting places. And like I almost fell over when I took my first steps in that.
That gets me too, man.
I wasn't nauseous, I wasn't ill, but like my brain was like, we don't know how to do this. Like the balance.
That's what my brain says to me when I play with VR. Do you think that Ace Combat 7 though is a day late and $1 short? I mean, isn't PlayStation VR kind of over already?
It doesn't matter. It's a game.
It is, but
you don't need VR to play it. It's just a bonus thing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I'd forgotten that they made a non-VR version.
It's just by default it's non-VR. Originally it was just going to have a separate VR mode, but they decided to convert the whole thing, which is great because I would rather play it that way.
All the hype for this though is around PlayStation VR though.
Well, no, I think the hype for it for the people who are really into it are because they love Ace Combat.
Yeah.
Ace Combat, and also
I haven't met too many people like that.
There's a fandom. There's a definite fandom, and also like there's not really anything else like it. Like,
Still,
what else? What else you
and
gonna
more
play?
arcade style.
The arcade style,
fighting.
like kind of fake ass, like plane
Japanese,
sim.
yeah.
And there's people. I love the ridiculous storytelling and the fact that it takes place in this weird alternate universe. And I didn't like it when it went to like with Assault Horizon and tried to be COD. It was dumb. And there's the whole thing is gloriously cheesy at all times. If you haven't played Ace Combat 6, and I unfortunately I don't think that's backwards compatible on Xbox right now or whatever.
Yet.
But Ace Combat 6, none of it. It's so dumb, but it's like charmingly dumb. It's like this weird thing where like it takes place in the alternate universe that Ace Combat takes place in, and this country called Ameria.
Yeah.
Ameria, which is a freedom-loving bunch of white people.
Really, they just took the C out.
Yeah. And they're invaded by what is obviously Russia.
Yeah.
And they get thrown out of the equivalent of New York and stuff. And there's this whole weird thing where like it's all the story on the ground has nothing to do with what you're actually doing in the game. But the big like in Ameria, the big like go fuck yourself like phrase is go dance with the angels. Which is like a reference to the myth of like the creation of the country or something. And so you've got all these people like saying, go dance with the angels, mister, to like their invader Russian soldier guys. And all the soldiers are like, how dare they? It's like
they would even know
it's the greatest insult anyone could ever say. And the whole thing is like, this is the dumbest damn thing I've ever seen. But it's like weirdly charming in how it's like watching The Room if it was Top Gun.
Yeah.
It's great.
It does have that strange Japanese appeal to it. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's like Ace Combat 5 where they kept talking about how maybe the enemy squadron, the Razgari squadron, might be a demon.
Yeah.
Might be demons. And you couldn't tell if they were trying to be like allegorical or if they really thought that they were demons and jet fighters. And then they kept playing that Puddle of Mud Blurry song.
Yeah.
Like, what am I watching? Like it's like being on drugs or something. Like I love those games.
That's kind of Ace Combat.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those games for specifically the reason they're so weird and cheesy, and you can't believe someone actually did this and like. It passed by like multiple people who didn't say like, what's wrong with you? Like, they're like, yep, that's great. Do it.
Let's move along. Fallout 76. Still don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah, I mean we know it, but they won't show it to us. Like,
I mean, do we
still
really
no
know
gameplay.
what it is? Like,
well, I feel like it's gonna be like Ark Survival Evolved in Fallout World, but like they still won't play it in front of us, which is weird because it's like 8 weeks out or something.
Yeah, that's starting to make me nervous. I almost wonder if Bethesda just fears like a revolt or something, and they want to maybe finally show the gameplay loop much closer to its release when people have already pre-ordered it and already committed.
I don't have a theory. It feels like by now you would be showing, at least demoing what it's like to play the game.
Yeah, and
like
Gamescom
in a vertical slice kind of way. I mean, and we've already seen like elements of it. We've seen like kind of the videos that show things. They put out all those animated videos of gameplay elements, but like
they put out another one for Gamescom.
If Sony can show me 10 straight damn minutes of Days Gone, you can show me 5 minutes of this.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really all you need. All you need to see is what happens whenever I'm put into the world. How do I get my quests? Can I go on quests with other people? Can I do them by myself? Once you solve a quest, how do you get rewarded? What do you get? How do you level up? Done. That's all you need to know. Because otherwise, Bethesda has pretty much explained almost everything else, but you don't, it's like you have all these organs without the connective tissue. Like, that's what we've experienced so far with Fallout 76.
I mean, I'm not super on board with the whole concept to begin with.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
So I guess maybe it's also because I'm just looking for like some kind of, I need to see a more concrete example of what you expect me to be doing in this game so I know whether I'm going to just outright reject the idea or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I just don't know. Like, because I don't like these kind of games, and like, there's certainly an opportunity for me to like this one because it's Fallout, and I like Fallout, and like, a theme can pull me into a genre I don't like very much sometimes. But they're not giving it to me. They're not showing me. All I need is like even just one of those stupid Ubisoft style with like the fake voiceover, voice chat stuff. Like even something like that, just to show me what like a mission is like or something. Like, I don't know.
Also, I will add this about Fallout 76. My brother is a big Fallout fan, and he texted me and asked me if it was coming out for PS4.
Huh.
So all this marketing that Bethesda has going on with Microsoft, it is working.
It's penetrating somewhere.
Yes. People think that it's not coming to PlayStation. They think it's an Xbox exclusive. And I was like, oh, no. It's coming to PS4 and PC and everything. He's like, but if you look at the trailers, it's always the Xbox bump. It was shown during Xbox press conference at E3, and for whatever reason, a lot of casual players aren't getting the message that it's coming to everything.
That's interesting.
It is. I was like blown away, and he's on it. Like, he knows what's going on in games. And he was like, hey, like, why aren't they releasing, because he only has a PS4. And he used to be an Xbox guy. And he's like, wait a minute, like, I jumped ship from Xbox over to PlayStation, and now I can't play Fallout? And I was like, no, bro, you're going to be able to play it. It's coming out on PS4.
Is he also from West Virginia?
He is, yeah. And, this is big discussion in West Virginia. People are talking about this like crazy, because I don't think that state has ever been in anything other than Country Roads by John Denver. So people there are really, really excited about it. And still, he had misinformation and did not think it was coming to PlayStation. So somewhere along the way, the messaging from Bethesda around this game just is not getting it done in general.
Although, at the same time, Google is your friend.
It is, yeah. Well, he has his brother who he thinks knows everything about video games. So he's like, why would I Google it when I can just text my brother or whatever? So
I promise that Google's faster than you are.
No way. No way. I'm faster than anything. No, yeah. I think he was just, probably just used an excuse to reach out or whatever. But I found that curious that he's tied into it. He knows what's going on in games, but he was not aware of that. Just the messaging in general for this game seems off to me. Seems very un-Bethesda-like. The way it's been rolling out the features. Meanwhile, today at Gamescom, we get yet another chunk of gameplay for Rage 2. It's like, so if you look across Bethesda's portfolio, like it's not adding up. It's like Fallout 76 has been singled out for this special way of promotion that Bethesda has decided to do with it.
Meanwhile, we get all these gameplay chunks of this game that didn't come out till next year.
Yeah, we got at QuakeCon, we got like 30 minutes of Doom Eternal, and here we are. I mean,
it's super unlike Bethesda.
Well, it's funny because if you look at Doom Eternal so far from media, we have a trailer and 30 minutes of raw gameplay. You look at Rage 2, we have 2 trailers and like 3 chunks of gameplay.
How about just nearly as much gameplay, raw gameplay, that I've already seen from that damn mobile game?
Right, yeah. And then you look at Fallout 76, we literally have like 8 trailers at this point, no gameplay. I don't know what's going on there. It's throwing up red flags all over the place for me. And I liked Fallout 4 a lot more than you did. And so if I were in your shoes, where I didn't even really like Fallout 4 as much as I had hoped I was going to, I'd be real nervous right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did go back to Fallout 4 this year when it was on. Actually, was on. I think it was Gold. Was it on? It was like
Yeah, they gave
Xbox
it
Live
away.
Gold free one day, and I already had all the DLC for some reason. Somehow I had the season pass, and I don't know why on the Xbox. I don't know why because I played it on PC.
Oh.
And when I got it on Gold, I'm like, oh, I have all the DLC. I didn't. Okay, maybe I'll try it. Now it's on Xbox One X. It runs better. I have the mods if I want to use them. So I loaded it up, and I played like more. I played much longer than I did the first time, and I liked it better. This time, the second time through, probably because I knew what to expect, and like, my expectations I think were a little overblown. It was not trying to be the ambitious game I was hoping it was going to be. It was just more sort of like Fallout 3 again, with like some slight enhancements and a base building system I don't care about. So it was I had a better time. But it was like. It's the first Fallout game I ever really bounced off of, in the whole, except for Brotherhood.
I remember I was surprised that you weren't as receptive to it as I was.
I mean, I played it for like 40 hours, but it was just the point at which I realized I just didn't care. Like, I didn't think the exploration was rewarding, and I didn't think the quests were interesting outside of Valentine. Like, that stuff was cool, but that was about it.
That stuff was really cool.
Still the best part of the game.
Oh, absolutely.
But... So I've come to terms with Fallout 4, but it's different from something like Skyrim, where I played it.
You just right away you fell in love with it.
And then I finished all the DLC, and then when the free update of the Enhanced Edition came out on Steam, I loaded. I'll just see what it looks like 80 hours later. Like, I didn't even mean to do that, but I played it for another freaking 100 hours almost. That's a
sign of a great game.
I just love Skyrim, and
well, it's a great game.
Whereas the Fallout I tried to play Fallout 3 again, and that didn't hook me again. The Bethesda Fallout games do not hook me the way the Elder Scrolls games do, and I don't know why.
Yeah, everyone's different. Everyone has different things they like.
But my Fallout love goes back to like Wasteland in 1988, so I don't know. Like, I should like Fallout more. I don't know. That's something about it. They don't hold up
the VATS.
It might be. The Elder Scrolls stuff holds up better for me for whatever reason. Even Morrowind.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the way it is. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about FIFA, believe it or not. Never talk about...
And I'm out.
We never talk about sports games on GameFace, and we definitely don't talk about FIFA hardly at all, despite the fact that a huge portion of our audience, both on-site and on Patreon, are from Europe. We probably should give it more love, because I know you guys love FIFA and you love football. But here's something very interesting. So if you remember last year's Madden, I was a big fan of the story mode in that. The story mode in this year's Madden is a shell of the first one. There's a lot of turnover at Madden this year, not the least of which was some of the writing staff leaving and blah,
like
blah,
the
blah.
director, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like after like 2 months.
Right. And it shows. Like the single-player story mode in Madden this year is really just terrible. It is bad. FIFA today comes out and announces its story mode, and it is just shot for the moon. It did the exact opposite of Madden. So the story mode last year on FIFA was okay. Wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Madden's was certainly way better. This season, Madden's went in one direction, and FIFA's has gone in the entire other direction. It's completely blown up and blown out its story mode. There's 3 different characters that you can play as. And they all kind of affect each other and intertwine with each other. It looks awesome, in all honesty. And a vast improvement, definitely, over what we got in Madden this year, and probably over what we got in Madden last year. So it's interesting that Madden kind of lit the torch, and now FIFA is the one running with it. Maybe I shouldn't even say Madden lit the torch. It lit the torch at EA. We've been seeing story modes in sports games from like NBA 2K for a while. So,
and it feels like if they're at this level with this, like clearly they were I mean, it might have been inspired by the fact that Madden was working on this 2 years ago or whatever.
It's
and
true.
They're like, oh, we could do that.
Yeah.
Let's us do that. Which is, the sad fact of the matter is that makes me way more likely to buy FIFA.
Yeah.
Because like the drama of sports is interesting to me in the sense that there's stories to be told. It's why I love the 30 for. I don't follow sports at all, but I love the 30 for 30 documentaries.
Well, they're great.
Because they take all these weird things, these once in a lifetime things that happen in sports, and turn them into a story that you can identify with, whether or not you follow that sport at all,
or if you care about sports,
or care about anything. It's just about people.
Yeah.
It just becomes about. you don't need to care about soccer to understand that this person in that story wants this so much, and if you like that character, you want them to get what they want.
It's true.
Like, you don't even need to care about soccer at that point. You just need to care about that character, and that is a way to drag someone who would never play a FIFA game, or certainly never pay $60 for a FIFA game, to jump in on it.
Yeah.
So like already you've got my attention in a way that no FIFA game has had, beyond the fact that I think the animations in them are beautiful.
Yeah.
And the fact that the whenever a new FIFA game comes out, all the flurry of GIFs of the weird glitches where all the players get stuck to each other and
or
stuff.
Bend over backwards.
Yeah, that stuff is very entertaining. But although I will say I ended up accidentally watching some FIFA. It was like a FIFA tournament or something. And I have to say, I was very impressed by how...
Oh, dude. Good FIFA players will blow your mind.
How realistic the gameplay was in terms of the passing and the dribbling and the trick stuff and all that. Like, it looked... it certainly didn't look like the old stuff I used to play. It was like and, like, you look at it cuts to the guys playing, and they're going like League of Legends play. Like, it's like watching a Smash Brothers guy play. It's like all these inputs happening constantly.
Well, back in the N64 era, there was a World Cup 98, I believe it was. And I got it for a review, and I played it for a little bit, and I had a really good friend of mine who lived underneath me in another apartment. And he didn't have a lot of money, so what I would do is, and he had an N64, I would buy games, play them for review them for street-level gaming, and then give them to him. And let him play them for as long as he wanted, and when he'd get done, I'd trade them in, or whatever, I'd keep some of them, but... FIFA World Cup 98, I played that game to review it, played it probably 30, 40 hours, something like that. Thought I was pretty good at it. Finished it, took it downstairs, gave it to him. He had it for like a month and a half or 2 months. And I went down to his apartment to play games with him one day, and he blew my mind. I could not touch the ball. He had gotten so good that he could literally juggle the ball all the way down the field without the ball ever touching the ground. Like, even back then, FIFA had crazy depth. And if you watch some of these new players play, like I have a buddy who lives up in the Bay Area who's huge into soccer, and like one of the only games he plays is FIFA. So every once in a while, like I'll just pull out, like I have like FIFA like 2014 or something. And he still has all of them. So I'll call him and be like, hey, you want to play some FIFA? He's like, you still only got 14? And I'm like, yep. He's like, all right. And we'll play, and like, it's like he's playing a different game. Like, I cannot do anything. I can't possess the ball for more than like 5 seconds at a time before he takes it away some way. Like, it is infuriating.
It's like playing against me in Street Fighter.
Yeah, I mean, it may be worse, Matt, honestly. Like, he is that good at it. Like, I cannot...
You did touch me a couple times.
Yeah, when we played I can't get the ball from him. He just toys with me. He'll just head it over my player who's in the middle, like running back and forth. Like, yeah, there is crazy depth to FIFA. I have a ton of respect for people who are good at FIFA.
You got to play the ball where it's going to be, not
where
it is.
Yeah. I mean, he has like, I have like in early FIFA games, you could set up like touch passes where you'd pass it to a player, but while the ball was going to him, you preload the next pass. Mm-hmm. So you pass it, and then you control the guy who passed it running away. And as soon as it gets to him, he immediately, like in the new FIFAs, you could do that like the whole way down the field. And I'm just like a chicken with his head cut off. So yeah, I have a ton of respect for good FIFA players. Like, that is a game that has a ton of depth. It's like an onion that has different layers that you peel back. It's like, okay, you're good at passing and shooting now. Well, now here's this. And then you get over that, and then you peel that layer back, and there's something else underneath there. So, yeah, FIFA, definitely gameplay-wise, a great game. Has been a great game for a long time. It's good to see them really concentrating on something for more of the solo stuff. And it also, I think the story mode has like a U.S. women's soccer player as one of the characters. So they're mixing up the genders a little bit so that maybe women can maybe get into playing FIFA a little bit more than they have.
Well, they emphasized that a lot last year, too.
They did, yeah. Well, I mean, getting the women's teams in there was the big deal, I think, last year.
Yeah.
And now this year, they're actually working a female player into the story mode as well. So FIFA looks like it's on a great trajectory. Meanwhile, Pro Evolution Soccer keeps losing leagues, and it couldn't afford to lose any to begin with.
Yeah.
So
fallen quite far from International Superstar Soccer 64.
Another
that's for sure.
N64 classic. That was at that point. That was one of the best soccer games I ever played.
And like to this day, I remember the announcing on that. Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah, it
was it was the Ace Combat of
that game
soccer
was all
announcing.
about the gameplay, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just sublime.
But I just love that game had. If you can find YouTube clips of it, do so, because they only had room on the cartridge for one instance of every country's name.
Right.
So that country's name had to be one particular way, and that they used it for every single thing. And for some reason, they didn't just have the announcer record the country names like neutrally. Some of them were like excited or like weird,
depressed.
And so Wales, like Wales is the announcer saying Wales was Wales. And so it was always like, and I remember it was Wales, and England was England. And so when you finished a game, he would be like, another game another win in the books for Wales. Poor old England. And like it was just complete nonsense. It was amazing.
That's worth looking on YouTube for.
I'm sure I have that cartridge somewhere. I should drag that out.
All right, let's move on. I think maybe the biggest story is what we're going to talk about next. I think maybe the story with the farthest reaching implications anyway is what we're going to talk about next. And that is NVIDIA announcing its new line of RTX cards. Because that's something that's going to affect pretty much all of us, or at least everybody who gives at least a little bit of a crap about PC gaming or is a crypto miner. It's going to affect everybody for years to come. So quick rundown. RTX 2070, $500. RTX 2080, $700. RTX 2080 Ti, $1,000. And then if you get the Founders Editions of those, they all go up.
Even more.
The Founders Edition of the Ti is like $1,200 or $1,300.
Yeah. Why is that? What are the Founders Editions? I don't remember what that is.
I think you get it early.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Founders Editions come out on like September 20th.
I got you.
And so basically, you're paying all that coin to get it before everybody else.
Will you mine $300 worth of Bitcoin by then? Probably. I don't know.
You won't. You absolutely won't. Bitcoin mining is over for people like us.
Yep.
Now it's just for people from big corporations with deep pockets who are okay with making that penny every hour. When they extrapolate it out across all their servers, it's not a penny per hour. So. Well, first of all, let's just talk about the price, Matt. Is that reasonable, feasible?
It's about what they cost now, yeah.
But it's not, though. Like, I went and looked at like what the prices were for the GTX 1080, and it started at like $600.
Yeah, but the 1080 is like well into the GTX line. This is the new line. This is the new tech.
I'm saying when it came out, that's what the price was.
Yeah, but I'm saying that is well into the line. Like that is, the Titan X has already been out of that point, the Titan, etc. Like this is a revolution in some ways. The real-time ray tracing is the new.
I know.
The new
RTX.
Shit.
A lot of people are pissed off that they changed it from GTX. The reason they did that is because it's all about ray tracing.
Ray tracing.
That's why it's called RTX. They're trying to explain to you they have this brand new technology that they're using. And we're seeing some ray tracing stuff right now, and this demo footage that we're going to show you.
The Battlefield 5 stuff looks amazing. Does it look like $1,300 amazing?
Do you think that's feasible? Are people going to pay this, Matt?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll sell out.
Are you going to buy one?
Probably not. Not immediately. First off, I don't trust the drivers.
Yeah.
You got to wait and let these things settle a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely want this tech at some point.
Did you hear about Tomb Raider? With the ray tracing on, they can only get it to run at 40 frames per second. Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Well.
So are we ready for ray tracing? If you have to spend $1,300 to get 40 frames per second?
Yeah,
It is amazing. This video in particular is incredible. Like if you pay attention to it, if you look at the reflections of the fire, it's on the street, it's on the characters, it's in the cars, it's on the guns, it's on
it's ridiculous.
Everything. It is flipping ridiculous. Like, tech demos are always tough sells because you have to really pay attention, or you need to be able to hear the person who's giving the demo to explain everything that's going on. But look, you can see the fire reflecting on the wood on the gun. Mm-hmm. This is stuff that has never happened in real time in video games ever. It is a big deal. Yeah. But $1,000?
Well, that's early adopter stuff, you know? Like
what really bothers me, though, is that they're not going to drop the price of the other card. Like, I wouldn't mind getting another 1080.
Because they don't have to. I mean, you're either in the market for this or you're not. It basically doesn't affect the other cards.
Yeah.
You know? Like, this
I
is a
just
whole
look at it as
different
typically when a new model of anything comes out, the old model is cheaper. That's usually how it works.
Somewhat, but like this is not.
Well, the prices of these new cards are so high that the old cards are cheaper.
That's true. That's also true. I also just think this is not. This is at this point, the RTX is essentially like a second pillar. It's not replacing the GTX. It's another thing.
Really? You think so?
Well, for now, until the pricing comes down on this to make it in the same ballpark as what the GTX is, for sure. Like, they don't need to drop the price of the GTX. This isn't competing with that. It's literally just like a crazy high-end disposable income early adopter thing. Because also, when you see this, you're looking at the tech that the PS5 and the next Xbox are going to be. Yeah. Like this is what the new shits is.
No, you're right.
This is the new flesh, as Videodrome would say.
Yeah.
And and we're 2 to 3 years ahead here. So that's why it costs so much. And if you want that,
maybe more than 2. I don't know if you're going to be able to get this tech into a console at a reasonable price for a while.
Talking about a $500 console in 2020.
I mean, maybe you have the base model.
I mean, it may not
the
look
2070.
I mean, it may not look like that Battlefield video, but like you'll have the capability to do some sort of real-time ray tracing.
I mean, ray tracing is something that has been talked about since the GameCube.
Right. Oh,
do you remember they tossed out like ray tracing when they were talking about the GameCube hardware?
First time I heard
okay, buddy.
I don't know. The first time I heard about ray tracing was on the Genesis.
Really?
Desert Strike was
Really?
They used ray tracing to make the Apache model, the helicopter you play as in Desert Strike. It was not real time, obviously, but they used a ray traced model to create the sprite that was used in the game to make it look realistic or whatever. And ray tracing has been a buzzword going back to at least 1993. It's
here we are in 2018. Finally, it's
somewhat the holy grail. Well, we'll see. I think, and again, that Nvidia is making this tech, and all this stuff is all connected. Everybody already knows basically what hardware is going into the next consoles, and that this is going to be part of it, and that's one of the things you're going to be expected to be able to do in a new console, moving forward. You'll be sick of seeing flame reflecting off wood by 2021. I promise.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we just saw it for the first time.
Yeah, this is the ray tracing thing is the bump mapping of
2018
of the
Generation 9
previous generation. Remember when people would Xbox 360 launch, you'd buy Condemned just to look at the wet bricks
and the shaders.
Yeah, it's like that's what this is for the new generation.
Yeah.
So
when do you think you'll make the leap? When do you see yourself buying one of these cards?
I don't know. Probably next year.
Yeah. Probably won't drop in price by then, though.
No, but they might have a new variant out by then. Like I usually like to wait for the second or third iteration of something, just to let them work everything out. Because the other, it's also the drivers. I mean, drivers are such a pain. You just never know when something's going to break everything. So I will wait and kind of, it's sort of the Apple thing. That's cool.
Let somebody else jump in
I'm going to wait and watch you all complain about it until they fix all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then once that hits a point where I'm like, okay, I can live with the shortcomings here, I'll get that. Because also right now, like, it's not ideal, and obviously can't do ray tracing, but like my computer runs stuff just fine.
Yeah.
And until
I wouldn't mind getting another 1080 in all honesty, and
I mean, I would expect that Shadow of the Tomb Raider will probably be the first thing that really says I'm not going to run correctly on your system.
But the prices are too high. Like it's still too much for a GTX 1080. Like it was a big sacrifice for me to buy one. And I'd like to have another one so I can play games in 4K smoothly, but the prices have never come down. They're still
well, they
insane.
don't need to because the cryptocurrency
crap
is keeping it up there. And also remember, I mean, when I built my computer, I bought 2 Titan X's. They were $1,000 each. Like I'm not, I go completely crazy when it comes time to finally build a new machine. It is not time to do that yet. I rode my previous one. I mean, that thing was like 9 years old when I replaced it.
Yeah.
I built it for, no, it wasn't 9 years old. I guess it was more like 6 or 7. I built it for The Witcher 2, and then they delayed The Witcher 2 by a year. So, like, that was, whoops,
well, at least I have a fat rig now.
Yeah.
I keep my PCs for a long time. I mean, that's what's great about PCs, though, is that you can upgrade them piecemeal, part by part.
Bit by bit or whatever.
It's like get new RAM, get some DDR5 or whatever, throw it in there. That gives you a boost. Get a new graphics card, gives you a boost. Get a new monitor that's a higher megahertz, gives you a boost.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about PC
the other thing is
gaming.
I would need a better monitor to take advantage of it.
You're right.
Because my existing monitor is only 2K.
Yeah.
So I would definitely need to upgrade for that. Because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. You know what I just discovered that was shocking to me? Is that movies are only in 2K.
Some of them.
Almost all of them.
Well, a good chunk of them are in real 4K at this point. There's an actual website you can go to.
I went. There's only like 20 that are
hundreds.
native 4K.
No, it's hundreds.
No.
No, there is.
I should trust you, but I just read it.
Well, not
because you know way more about movies than I do. But I just read this.
No, they're wrong.
I saw the list of the movies.
That's not true. I don't know what they're talking about then, because there's plenty of true 4K out there for movies.
Really?
And believe me, I pay attention to this because I ain't buying something if it's not true 4K, because that just means they're going to bring another one out later, and I'm going to have to replace it.
But film is only 2K, right?
No. Film is 8K.
No. They put them out in 2K because all the effects are only in 2K.
Well, that's a mastering it. So
right.
If you take a 35 millimeter film and you scan it at full maximum imaginable resolution,
that's
8K.
Right.
Film is about 8K resolution.
But really, you can't go above 2K because all the effects, they're rendering them in 2K, because if they were to render them in 4K or 8K, it would bloat movie budgets, and it would take forever to render shit.
Well, yes, you can, because sometimes they do master them in 4K. But a lot of times they do the effects.
This was all new to me. I was blown away by this information.
The Star Wars, Force Awakens, mastered in 2K, because for exactly that reason, it cost too much to render everything at 4K. I believe The Last Jedi was actually 4K. Like they've started doing them in actual 4K. I'm pretty sure. Marvel movies rendered at 4K a lot. I think they're slowly rendered at 4K, slowly moving into I think Infinity War was true 4K,
which I just finally watched.
And then you can have true 4K masters of a 35 mm of a film movie, and maybe the stuff wasn't rendered at that level, because like
like they were saying all the live action movies that don't have CG, they're 4K.
You can still do a 4K. But anything
that has CG, they say you can never get a true 4K version.
No, that's wrong. That's stupid, because I mean that's a weird technicality that doesn't mean anything. Because like the Christopher Nolan collection they put out on Blu-ray last year, all of those are true 4K transfers of film movie. Because he shoots his movies on film, and so maybe I don't know what they rendered the CG effects at on his film movies, but that transfer from that 35 millimeter film is a 4K master of that film. Now, did they skimp on the whatever digital effects were on there? Maybe. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But that is a true 4K resolution, digital copy of a film version. Now, in something like Star Wars, where like Force Awakens, where they mastered it in 2K, that's all digital. They did not shoot that on film. They shot it on digital.
Right.
So the digital shots are probably full 4K. And then they master it down to 2K to do the effects because of, like you say, the render farm would burn to death.
Yeah.
One day, if they wanted to do a full 4K version, they could re-render everything at 4K. You've also got the problem. That's the other problem you have with 4K versions of the prequels. Is Episode 2 is shot at 1080p, and will never be.
They shot it at 1080p.
1080p was the maximum resolution you could do digitally then.
What, they didn't shoot it on film, though, is what I'm saying. Wow.
Like, Episode 2 and 3 were shot completely digitally, which at the time was cutting edge. But the cutting edge at the time
was 1080p.
For Episode 2 was 1080p. I believe Episode 3 is 2K. But that means that you're never going to get a higher resolution of
That's crazy.
Attack of the Clones than 1080p.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Unless you completely re-render everything and reshoot it. I mean, you
it'll
can't
never
do it.
happen.
The live action stuff is 1080p. Like, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is an ongoing thing. But like what I'm saying is like if you did a 4K version of the original Star Wars from the original film,
yeah.
maybe what they shot of the model stuff was not 4K, but that is a true 4K transfer of a film.
Oh no, I totally get that. Yeah.
Now like.
But won't you see like the CG won't look great if they do that? If they do it that way? Really?
It depends. I mean, there's no CG in Star Wars.
Well, can you see the difference between 4K and 2K? It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of stuff that is 2K that's sold as Ultra HD, and it just blows up to 4K, and most people would never notice.
Yeah. What spurred this on was you mentioned you had a 2K monitor, which seems odd that there's a monitor for gaming that was 2K instead of 4K.
Well, at the time, 4K monitors were like $12,000.
Right.
So I bought the
half step or whatever.
It was like 10% of the price. It was on sale, and but it only goes up to 2K, which was more than enough at the time because it was like 2014.
Better than mine. My monitor's only 1080p.
I think it still looks good. But yeah, I'd have to go up to a 4. If you're gonna get that card, you better have a display device that can stand up to it.
That card would do nothing for me, really. I don't have even a 2K monitor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, if you're still operating at even 2K, I mean, I can run everything I own pretty much maxed out at 60 frames a second at 2K.
Yeah.
And, like, so at this point, it's almost just like you're adding a degree of difficulty for the sake of what?
Right.
Because 4K, at that distance, it's like a 32-inch monitor. It's fine. That's a great resolution for that distance of viewing. Like if you might go up to 4K, you're just sort of in crazy town at that point.
Yeah.
Especially for the price.
Yeah.
So to me, it would not be. To me, it's always about adding graphical bells and whistles. The resolution is cool, but like it's not the end all be all. To me, the thing that pushes me to get new hardware is always this card can't do this cool new graphical trick.
Right. Yeah.
More than the resolution. There's plenty of stuff that I run at 1080p just to get a smooth frame rate as well. Like Deus Ex Mankind Divided, when it launched, was just a disaster in terms of shaders trying to run at high resolutions, and so I dropped it down to 1080p so I get a smooth frame rate. I was fine.
It's like a multiplayer game. Like maybe the first week you play it, you care about how good it looks.
Oh yeah.
But eventually, all you care about is how smooth it'll run.
Well, my girlfriend, she's the big Overwatch fan of my girlfriend, and she's like she and I was, I got a gaming laptop because I didn't have anything small for portable, and I'm like, oh, you can take it with you and play Overwatch League watch Overwatch League and play Overwatch when you're on the road, and she's like. She comes back and she's like, yeah, I didn't do it too much because it can only run Overwatch at like 90 frames a second. And
it needs more.
It's got to be 144. Like if it's not 144, get out. Like she has no use for you. And it's just like, and it's only for that. It's pretty much only for that game.
Well, she's
competitive
at it.
But yeah, but it's like it's what you're used to. And to me, I'm just like, oh, I'm trying to get this thing to run at 60. And she's like, oh, that's adorable.
Well, I'll say this about
So to me, that laptop is great because I can hook it straight up to the TV and play Steam stuff without having to do the Steam Link without the lag, and I can play stuff at 60. And
that's great, actually.
But she was.
How much did you pay for the laptop?
$1,500-ish.
Oh, that's not bad.
So yeah, it was pretty good buy. It was on sale.
Alienware.
MSI.
That's good stuff too.
Alienware is too big and clunky.
I'm trying to wonder to myself, when will I buy one of these RTX cards? And I'm thinking it'll probably be in like 4 years. I'm not even exaggerating.
I was gonna say I don't find that to be a particularly unreasonable thing to say. Like that's ridiculous amount of money for that.
You could buy cars for that.
Yeah.
My first car cost a third of what that card cost.
Well, I mean that's true of the PlayStation 3 as well. It's like.
Yeah. My first car was $400.
The console they told you to get a second job to afford. If you remember that.
It's $600. So there's a big difference between that and $1,300. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the Founders stuff is it's not for us.
People with a lot of money to waste.
Different people.
Yeah.
I still think that's mostly targeting the cryptocurrency people. Like
it's possible.
I feel like that's the only paying an extra $300 to get it early. That has to be part of like some kind of like economy of scale scheme for the person buying it. Like there's nothing. I can't imagine paying the cost of a Switch to get a graphics card a couple months sooner. Like, that's just not a thing I would do.
You could buy a Switch with that money. But chances are, if you can afford to spend that much on a graphics card, you already own everything you want.
Probably.
That's my guess. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk lastly. Well, actually not lastly. We have one other thing to talk about. We're going to talk about Diablo 3 for Switch. Big old joint announcement between Blizzard and Reggie. There he is. I always love his acting chops in these.
I also love this. Like,
definitely not going to win an Oscar anytime soon.
I love this like weird alternate, like kind of like fictional universe. There were like
where they made this fake OS and like
and we're like random game company CEOs just intrude upon Reggie when he's trying to do other things.
They have this private like chat service that nobody else has, where the big video game people can just talk to each other whenever they want to.
Yeah,
that used to be AOL.
They used to be called The Bar.
Yeah, it did. So Blizzard is putting out a game on a Nintendo platform, I believe, for the first time in 15 years.
What was the last one? Like StarCraft 64?
64.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was that StarCraft 64 that late?
Yeah.
2003?
Yeah. Actually, maybe more than 15 years.
Wow.
StarCraft 64 did come late in the N64's
Yeah,
life.
I just didn't think they were still putting stuff out.
It was announced for a long time.
Because that's 2 years after the GameCube came out.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's not right then. I know it's been at least a decade since Blizzard has made a game for a Nintendo platform.
Oh, it's been a long, long time.
What do you think finally convinced them to do it?
I don't know. Money?
Easy port?
Money. I think Nintendo paying them money and the promise of, some of the sweet, sweet microtransactions coming up or something. I don't know.
But keep in mind, it is, what, a 3 or 4 year old game now?
6.
Diablo 3 is 6 years old?
Diablo 3 came out in 2012.
Wow. Well,
So
now you know why they did it.
Well, yeah, it's partly
like,
that.
we can make
But
money off
the
a
more
game.
look, I don't care about, I don't care about playing a 6-year-old game I've already beaten twice on 2 different platforms on a new platform for what is probably going to be full price on a screen the size of like a block of cheese.
Yeah.
Like, the important news here is that Blizzard is on board with the Switch.
You're right. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Moving forward, there's stuff that could mean that's big for the platform.
You think we'll see Overwatch on Switch?
No.
How come?
60 frames a second.
I don't think anything's hitting 60 frames a second that isn't a first-party game on Switch.
Yeah,
That's just not going to happen.
I just can't see Overwatch running well enough for Blizzard to be comfortable with it. But I think we'll see Hearthstone.
Yeah.
And I bet we'll see whatever future stuff they're going to do. Because clearly Diablo 3 is not over. I feel like they're going to do more stuff with that.
Overwatch feels like a perfect fit with Nintendo, though. Just the tone of the game, the art style.
Except it's all online and requires a robust online service.
Well, I guess you heard that Blizzard already said, oh yeah, it's going to use the Switch app for voice chat.
Yep.
Which also, by the way, we only have about a month left of free online play on Switch.
Yep. Well,
second half of next month, you have to start paying to play online. And that's when developers stop adding multiplayer elements to Switch games. Seriously.
Well, we'll see. I think the fact that it's so cheap per year may not make it quite so much of a barrier. I think you've got a large contingent of Switch owners who will just pay that $20 a year to get access to the retro games.
Yeah. I'm curious, though, what percentage of people who own both a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox have both PSN and Xbox Live?
Well, me.
I mean, we do, but we have to. We need that service to play these games online. But the average consumer, don't you think they would just decide,
pick one, yeah.
Yeah. So, like 70% of Switch owners own another console where they're already subscribing to.
I mean, that's a good point, but at the same time, I think you can't forget how crazy Nintendo fans are when it comes to just like paying to get nostalgic fixes.
Yeah.
And that's basically the point of. I mean, I think to a lot of people, like whatever they're calling it, the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System or service or whatever on that thing, like where you can play like retro games. I think that is worth $20 to most Nintendo fans straight out the box, and like getting to play Splatoon 2 more is just icing on the cake, depending on how they handle that kind of thing. I think the big obstacle is the stupid voice chat app, which Fortnite is proving you don't even need to use.
Yeah, you can just plug a headset.
Just plug a headset into it and it works. I need a behind the scenes explanation of that one, because that feels like Epic was just like, no, we're gonna do it like this. Oh, then we just won't put it on the system. Oh, we can do it like that? Okay, great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, do you think Nintendo knew? I mean, Nintendo knew all along you could do it that way.
Of course.
Why is it making people use that asinine app?
I don't know. For the children or some shit. I don't know.
Nintendo, every once in a while, is just consistently does stuff where you're just like, what?
I don't know. They're still doing friend codes.
I mean, that's the way it was on Wii U. I could just plug in my headphones. Like, I have earbuds with a little mic on them. I could just plug it into the headphone jack, and it worked. It just worked.
I don't know what to tell you.
And Nintendo won't tell you, but you can do that with the Switch as well.
Well, if you put it in your game,
right.
which Epic apparently figured out how to do. My only guess is, like, I don't know, maybe it takes up enough of a memory footprint that it does not a universal solution. Like, they need to offload it for certain things that are pushing it really hard, because maybe Fortnite's not pushing the hardware tremendously. I don't know.
I think everything pushes that hardware tremendously.
True, but like clearly Fortnite can do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where.
I don't think voice chat takes away a lot of processing power.
Yeah, but I think when you're nickel and diming to the point that you know with some of this hardware, it might matter.
Yeah.
I don't know, when you're pushing it real hard, it might matter.
Yeah.
But I am not a developer, so I don't know.
All right.
All I know is that the fact that Fortnite can do that makes me side-eye that app real hard.
Yeah.
Diablo.
You think?
Again, Diablo is, it's yet another old game that you've played multiple times on other platforms coming to the Switch, which I don't find interesting. But the interesting part is that Blizzard is on board in some capacity, and that could mean very interesting things for the Switch moving forward. The other thing, of course, to remember is I think Diablo 3 plays better with a controller. So in the end, I would probably prefer to play it on that than on the PC.
But it's already on.
It's already on PS4. I played it the most on PS4.
Yeah.
But like for whatever reason, Diablo 3 works. If anybody hasn't played it on PS4 and is like thinking about the Switch and is like, I don't know, using the analog stick. No, Diablo 3 works great with a controller. They should add controller support to the PC version, frankly.
I'm surprised they haven't.
They have not.
All right, let's wrap up Gamescom.
Last I checked, anyway.
With one more topic. And like I said, after this, you're good. We just gave you all of Gamescom in about an hour and a half. The last thing
something happened while we were doing this.
Exactly, which is possible. Typically not with Gamescom, though. Generally, the first 2 days,
it's all pretty front-loaded, yeah.
Everything happens, and then there'll be maybe a couple extra like developer walkthroughs.
Also, like the middle of the night.
Yeah, so. Well, it's just starting to happen like here soon. So, the final thing we're going to talk about is Shenmue 3. A release date for Shenmue 3. Also, a brand new trailer they put out today. The release date is August 27th. Don't get too excited. Of 2019. So another year from now for Shenmue 3. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's delayed again.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to see that slip again.
Yeah. Did you watch the trailer?
Yeah.
Game is looking much better.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Especially in light of having just played the HD versions of the other two.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about in just a second.
Although, I think... Rio, I think you can take the Band-Aid off your face. It's probably
it's healed,
okay. It's
bro.
probably fine.
It's healed,
been
bro.
Months.
Now it's a fashion statement, I think.
I guess.
I think it's just his look.
Also, that's a thing. I remember that in like old anime and manga stuff when I was growing up in the '80s. Like that was it was like an emblem of like a badass or something.
Right,
it was like the
something
Band-Aid
happened
on the face.
that they needed. Yeah. This trailer, I mean, the game is starting to take shape.
Yeah.
It's starting to look okay now. Some of the trailers we got before, I don't know that I would say that.
No, but I mean that's the problem with showing works in progress to the general public is they freak out because they think it's like, oh my god. It's like, well, no, they all look like. I mean, polish is the last thing to go on. Well, on really anything, because that's why it's called polish. But like
I think some of the early footage of that was beyond just like it need polish.
The developers I've talked to disagree with you.
Really?
Shit looks real bad until you really get to a pretty finished state in most games. Like you'd be shocked.
But it looks much better in this trailer.
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt. It actually looks like a Generation 8 game.
Yeah,
now.
in a real like kind of non-kickstarted sort of like actual non-crowdfunded production. I think this is about when you announce this.
Right.
This would be the first thing you'd show.
Yeah.
And say it's coming out in a year.
I mean, look, once they announce a game, games don't look better after they're announced.
Well, yeah, but you have to announce this before it looks good because
it's a Kickstarter.
It's a Kickstarter. Like, that's what I'm trying to say, is like, this is the point in most games when we would see it the first time.
And then a year later it would come out.
A year later it would come out, it looked but you had to get through the alphas and the pre-alphas and I mean, stuff looks awful. Like,
yeah, it did look awful.
Because it doesn't need to look good because you're just trying to make the game work. Like,
right.
it doesn't matter if it looks good. You're trying to make it function. But
like, I don't think this game's out of the woods yet, by the way. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we're good now. Like, they could have just polished up these parts of the game, and they don't show that many different areas either in that trailer, and it's really short.
Well, the character models are clearly
vastly improved.
Clearly in final form to some degree on this.
They still have a bit of a weird look to them, though.
Yeah,
they're like carved out of wood or something.
Yeah, well, that's Shenmue.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't totally break with tradition.
Yep, but coming out August 27th of 2019, as of right now. We'll see if that actually happens. But that's a good window for Shenmue 3 to come out.
It's a good place for it to be. I feel like there's a non-zero chance it slips to Q1 2020.
Yeah.
But like
non-zero.
Because I'm pretty sure you don't want this coming out in the fall against the big boys.
Oh, no, definitely not. Although I think it would still find an audience.
Yeah, but
people are going to buy this no matter what, man. Some people are.
There's a certain group that will. I mean, I already paid for it, so
yeah.
I don't have a choice. But
you and a lot of people have already. How much did they end up crowdfunding ultimately for this?
I don't remember. A lot.
Like over 10 mil?
Maybe? I don't remember. I put in my money and walked away and said, like, call me when it's ready, basically.
Hopefully I'll still be alive when that happens. If not, Matt, I will take the copy of Shenmue 3 and I'll put it in your casket.
What are you thinking is going to happen?
Just joking.
Star Citizen is...
No, I'm thinking that it may be delayed for eternity.
No, I don't think... No, not at all.
If it's... Look, if
Star
it's...
Citizen, maybe.
If it's as ambitious as the games we're about to talk about, it could happen.
Nah, it's not that ambitious anymore.
We'll see. All right, so that segues perfectly into our next topic.
It's not even finishing the story.
Yeah. That's Gamescom 2018. Maybe some stuff happens the rest of the week, and we talk about it again next week's episode. But honestly, this is probably all of it. Actually, if that is all of it, what's your letter grade for Gamescom 2018?
I don't know. It's probably like a B.
Yeah, that sounds about right. B- maybe. There's all the announcements were for indie games. Mm-hmm. There was no big like AAA game announcement before that.
Yeah, it was a bunch of stuff. More information on just about everything I wanted more information on. Release dates on some things I didn't expect to get release dates for. It was good.
Yeah, I'll give it a B too. We will agree on a convention for once. All right, now let's talk about Shenmue 1 and 2, the remasters. Matt, how much time have you spent with it at this point?
Like a couple hours for each game.
I've played an hour and 45 minutes of the first one. So, however, I honestly feel like that may be enough to give a pretty educated opinion on these remasters.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've probably put a couple hundred hours into each of them on the old
I've finished
versions.
both games before.
And I mean, and here's the thing: I'm a big fan of the Shenmue games.
Me too.
You see, we're
or at least I was.
We're sitting in front of
flip to the
my
camera
poster.
there,
I
Sam.
don't know if you can see, but this poster is actually signed by Yu Suzuki. So I am a Shenmue mark. I am a fan of all things Shenmue, and whoo boy, are these hard to go back to.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are.
And I'm enjoying it in the sense that, like, you know, Shenmue 1 is 20 years old this December.
It's pretty crazy.
Or something like that. Maybe it's 20 years old next year. I can't remember when it came out in Japan. But it might be next year. It might be 99. Nah, now I'm freaking psyching myself out. It's almost 20 years old. Let's go with that. And it contains a lot of conventions of modern adventure and action RPG games that just did not exist then. And so...
It's like I always say, creating something where there was nothing.
Yeah, as much as clunky as a lot of this is, and as hard as it is to kind of hack your way through, especially the tertiary NPC dialogue, which is just especially in the first game, is just nonsense.
It's
half
so
the time.
inane.
And
or her hair.
And well, yeah, and also you got like there's like 5 or 6 characters that have decently designed like character models, and everybody else is just like
so ugly.
They're just like it's like all their clothes and everything is just all the same texture, and like they're just sort of like stretching around, and like this character, especially in Shenmue II, because there's so many more people you can talk to. The characters outside of the main cast, no one has animated mouths.
Yeah.
They just like stretch the texture up and down to make it like animate, and it like does the job, but it's also like seeing it now is like, oh my god, like it's so weird.
Yeah.
You got the problem where they lost the original audio files, and so what you're hearing in these remasters are they ripped the audio dialogue files off of the Dreamcast discs or the Xbox One, and so you're talking about the Xbox.
I can't believe they lost those files.
They probably never.
How do you lose those files?
They probably never thought they'd need them again.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, why in the world would you ever think?
Imagine they're going to remaster it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so yeah, especially in the first game, you're dealing with all the dialogue is audio ripped from the discs, the Dreamcast version, which all the audio was compressed to fit on 1 GB discs. That's a lot of compression.
Yeah.
And like early on, especially if you're listening to it through a major like a good surround system, you're gonna hear mic pops. You're gonna hear hissing when people say S's. Don't play this with headphones would be one of my suggestions.
I actually did play it with headphones because at night I have to play games with headphones on to keep my wife from waking up, and so it sounded like I was listening to like a bad MP3.
Yeah. But like if you love Shenmue, you're still going to enjoy it, I think. But I would have a very hard time telling someone who's never played these games to go ahead and just fast forwarding through looking at things in drawers. That is Shenmue.
You wish you could do that in the game.
Yeah, I've spent so much time just looking at things.
Yeah.
And opening drawers and there's nothing in them and closing. And like the other thing you got to remember is like back in 1999, that was amazing that this world was so fully realized. You could interact with stuff and look at stuff and do all that. And now
that charm is long since worn off.
I mean, I'm blown away by the fact that you can walk out of the front door of his house in the first game, and it gives you a choice of the 3 major areas to go to.
Yeah.
Which, like, oh my god, you used to have to run there out of that, and like everything is time related, and the first game has no time controls. The second game lets you fast forward time.
That's a huge deal.
The first game, like, you're just at the mercy of the clock, and it's always too early or too late for the thing you need to do.
Yep, and then you have to wait for a whole other day to turn over. Like,
but back then, that was amazing. It's like it's like
everyone
that whole
loved
thing,
that about it back then.
And now it's just tedious.
Yeah, now even the second game gave you the ability to manipulate the time.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to stand around and wait. Yeah.
The only other issue, there's like all these weird modes to put things in, and I use Shenmue mode, which gives you the dialogue is on and the subtitles are off. But if you start to skip dialogue, the subtitles pop up so you can read them as you jump through the scene.
Yep.
In Shenmue II, that option is broken, and it's instead of the subtitles being off, they're on, which makes no sense because like. If the subtitles are only supposed to pop up when you skip dialogue, why are they always on? But it's actually broken even in the description in the options menu. It says, voice on, text on, and then gives a description of how the subtitles will only come on if you skip. So the only way to play the game with no subtitles is to use cinema mode, which doesn't let you skip dialogue, which is a problem because if you're going to grind your lucky hit or you're going to grind arm wrestling or whatever, like you don't want to have to.
This
a box moving game. You don't want to have to sit through the dialogue that sets this up every time.
Did you see that? Was it PC Gamer put up? It was the first one to put up a review of this, and the guy gave it like a 9.
I mean, even as someone who...
Even when I reviewed this back in 1999, I don't think I gave it a 9.
I might have given Shenmue II a 9 when it came out.
Yeah, that would probably deserve it. Yeah.
The first one is very much... God, I don't even know if I can call it Act 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a 12-hour prologue, almost.
It is.
2 is where things really start to pick up. Like
it's like 3 times as long.
If this was a movie, the first game would be like before the credits.
Yeah.
Like you've got like the thing where his father gets killed by this mysterious man, and then he spends weeks running around town asking people about, do you know any Chinese people?
Yeah.
Have you seen any sailors?
Yeah.
Do you know how I can get a job with a forklift? Like, it just goes on and on and on, and it's like, it's not unrealistic, but it's not good plotting.
Yeah. It does. I guess. Look, I've only played a couple hours of this, but I hadn't played it in quite a while, and I'm just way too impatient to play it now.
Mm-hmm. That's partly kind of what games have become, like the culture of what, the immediate gratification and the expectation that like you're gonna instantly be told how to do everything. There's
no hand-holding in this.
No, that was one of the interesting. Early on, you have a scene, or you can find a scene where you train with Fukusan, who is the guy who lives with you and your dad before your dad dies, that your dad took in when he was 15 and has been helping train him for the last 10 years. Which I actually just said in a much more naturalistic way than the people in the game explain it.
Oh yeah, way better.
I think in the game he's like, your father has been taking me in since I was 15. That's 10 years. It's like, great.
That's exactly how he says it.
Also,
you sure you didn't work on Shenmue, Matt? Is that not you in the game?
No, actually, the guy who voices that character.
How you said 10 years? That's exactly how he says it.
I've played this game a lot.
10 years.
If the guy who voices that character, if you've ever watched the American version, the English version of Iron Chef, the guy on the floor who goes like "Koi-san," and reports in. That's that guy.
Oh, really?
It's the same dubbing company that did Iron Chef.
Wow.
It's in Japan, but it's an English dubbing company.
That's crazy.
And it's just stuff. I was talking to one of the pedestrians or whatever, and it was just like, it's like, hey there. He's like, hey bro, and that happened right as my girlfriend was coming down the stairs, and she almost sat down on the stairs laughing at the dial. And it's just like, you walk up to some kid and you're like, hey, he's like, hey mister, you want to wrestle? And it's like clearly like a little like a adult doing a kid's voice, and there's a slight echo because the voice booth wasn't quite soundproof properly. It's amazing. It's incredible. And
that's so funny.
So yeah, there's a cheese element to this.
Oh yeah.
And if you love these games back in the day, this is it's great because it's great that you can play them on a modern console. I mean, I've run into some bugs. I have a thing where on the first game, there keeps being this thing where it goes to a cutscene, it just goes to white. It just goes to bright white, and you can hear the dialogue, but there's no picture, and I have to quit and restart. You can save pretty much anywhere now, so that's
huge.
Helpful.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of got that thing where you're walking down. If you're walking down a hallway and you're trying to look at something, you got to pull the trigger to look and then move the stick, and you're sort of floating behind his head, and you can't really see through his head. Now you can see through his head, but now you can't look down far enough to see the thing you want to interact with. It was a prototype for how 3D games work today, basically.
I respect the hell out of this game. And you're right. As soon as you play it, you start to realize how many things it created for the industry, but it's so hard to play now.
Yeah, and hell, it's so even the sense of how
I love the tone
how much
of the
Mass
game,
Effect
too.
owes to this. Where I've gotten in conversations where I keep expecting dialogue choices to pop up, and they don't. You just hit the button again, and he keeps babbling on about sailors.
They do expand the dialogue stuff a little bit in the second one.
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm mostly been playing the first one, and the other thing when I switched to the second one to run it through its paces to see how it will look, because the second one does look better. Because I think they're working off the Xbox version, which was a little improved. Yeah. But you're still, both games still have just ground textures that it makes me feel like there's something wrong with my eyes. It's so bad. And I've seen people online, it's oh my God, it looks so crisp. I'm like, no, it doesn't. The character models some places maybe.
It looks crisp in comparison.
It looks comparison, yeah. But I'm still looking at this. Even right here you can see. Even the very first shot when he runs through and you see the broken sign on the ground, the ground texture is just
Sam actually just showed that.
Yeah.
So who should buy this, Matt?
Fans of Shenmue.
Yeah, that's the only person I would recommend it to.
If you're curious about it, cool. But
I'm not going to hate on you for getting it.
No, not at all. But don't come complaining to me when you spent $30 on a thing that you're not going to get through because it's so archaic in a lot of ways. Yeah. Because it's part of history. If you're interested in gaming history,
it's like a relic, an artifact. Yeah.
But it's it would be I don't know, you have to appreciate it for what it is. You don't buy an ancient Greek urn and then complain that you couldn't grow a flower in it.
No, yeah.
It's not for that. Yeah. It's for You know, it's like, but I was saying about the hand-holding thing. Like when you go and do that training thing with Fukasan, you show him the form for the move he's trying to do, and the game doesn't tell you how to do the move.
No, it doesn't.
You have to intuit from the dialogue what you should do on the controller to make the move happen. And I was able to do it.
This game will drive
but like
85% of the modern gamer bonkers.
Yeah.
I think.
It's
really hard for me to recommend it to anyone. Unless you're already a huge fan and you want to get the best version of it possible, because that really is what you're getting here.
But if you've never played them, I would say at the very least you have to go in with a mentality of you are playing a 2-decade-old game.
Yeah.
That laid the foundation
that was
for a lot
innovative
of
for its time.
Absolutely,
But...
laid the foundation for a whole lot of things. No one, one of the reasons the controls are awkward in this game is because no one had codified how to do that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have to pull the trigger to run, it's weird.
Yeah.
But like that's no one. There was no. We had, and you get this if you play like kind of remasters of old PS1 games or stuff. Like no one had kind of. There's a standardized feel to how 3D cameras work and how third-person cameras work and how controls work and how characters start and stop and that kind of thing. And it just wasn't here.
Yeah, the transition animations, there's none of that type of stuff that's you get with modern 3D games.
But you will get something
out of it. If you get sucked into it, though,
I think
you'll get a lot of game for your dollar.
Yeah, and I think you'll, if you're a fan of Yakuza in particular, like you'll see how Yakuza is the descendant of this game. And you'll see kind of where, like, when people talk about how it's a spiritual successor to Shenmue, I think that's very clear when you play this, especially, even as someone who's played a lot of Yakuza and hasn't played Shenmue for a few years, it's very much there.
But I would recommend, like, if you want to prep for Shenmue 3, I would recommend just watching, like, a synopsis on YouTube or something.
And I'm sure Shenmue 3 will come with something like that.
Yeah, there'll probably be a little cinema at the beginning
like
that just catches you up on stuff or whatever. But it's really, really hard for me to recommend that anybody
That's a great scene that we're talking with these two people in the Chinese restaurant, because when characters talk in this game, everything else freezes.
Yeah.
And so I had frozen the wife in the background of that Chinese restaurant scene. I had just caught the man, the old man had taken like a sieve of noodles out of the pot and was waving that around while talking to me, and his wife, I just caught her holding the knife like right in front of her face. So she's talking. It's like, oh, you want to know about Chinese people? And like she's pointing the knife at I'm like, dude, I think you better get out of here. They're not happy about your inquiries, sir. So stuff like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to dissuade anyone if you've never played these and you look at this and you're interested, or you're like a gaming historian type and you want to see how it all began.
Yeah.
But just buckle up.
Buckle up. Be ready to be really patient.
It's going to be a bumpy night.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. We're running out of time. We got some more stuff to get to. Let's talk about a delay for Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night, Iga's spiritual successor to the Castlevania franchise. After he left Konami, was fired from Konami. I'm starting to think it was fired at this point because the game was just delayed again into next year. I went and looked at his Kickstarter, Matt. That Kickstarter has made $5.5 million.
Yeah.
What do you imagine the budget was for Konami's handheld Castlevania games?
I have no idea.
I'm guessing it was that or less.
Probably. Now, to be fair, this looks way better than any of those in terms of like visual quality, image quality. I mean, those games were not 4K hand animated items. They were vastly less complex.
Yeah, like 240p or whatever.
Yeah. This doesn't shock me, really. If this was going to come out this year, I think it would have made it by now. I think you don't want to put this out in the fall up against...
It doesn't shock me at all because it's been delayed like 5 times, but that doesn't mean it's acceptable. This is insane, dude, that this game got delayed again, not just delayed all the way to the end to next year. He wouldn't even give a date now.
Yeah.
And he canceled the Vita version. Who cares about that? But
I think even if it was coming out next week, they would have canceled the Vita version.
Right.
I mean, that's just over.
Yeah, I don't even... He said that it was because Sony stopped manufacturing the system and stopped manufacturing cards, but it was just a smart business decision, in all honesty, to not put it out for Vita, especially if it was going to make it even later.
Right.
But I'm starting to see now, like, everybody hates Konami, but a lot of the stuff Konami's done has been pretty smart, man. Like, I'm starting to see why Konami made the decisions that it made.
Well, I don't think that's relevant to this, really.
You don't?
No.
You don't think Iga leaving there was...
I think he was told to leave,
right?
But that was already in place because his Castlevanias were not breaking the bank every single time.
Right, and because he was taking forever to make them.
But he wasn't taking forever to make them. Those games came out like almost once a year at one point.
On the GBA, they did.
And on the DS, he got Dawn of Sorrow and Portrait of Ruin and Order of Ecclesia, and then he did that Harmony of Despair thing, that multiplayer thing on Xbox Live Arcade. Like, he was putting stuff out constantly.
I guess you're right. For some reason, I don't remember.
He got fired because that stuff didn't sell, and Konami decided 2D Castlevanias were a losing battle, and they switched to Lords of Shadow after that blew up, and then they ruined that because they made Mercury Steam do a bunch of shit on a ridiculous schedule, and then the guy who runs Mercury Steam seemed a little weird to begin with, and then they made me do stealth as a rat, and no one wants that. No, I don't. I mean, I think part of it the delays on this might be the fact, I think you're running into people are drawing parallels with Mighty Number 9, but I think there is a parallel there in the sense that you've got these two major, creative directors or game directors. Well, I mean, there's a whole other thing about whether Inafune even knew how to direct a game or whatever. That's a whole separate can of worms. But I think if you're used to working in kind of a studio environment where like kind of the logistics are provided by the larger company that kind of owns the place, and now you're pushed into sort of an indie situation, I think the organizational structure is a very difficult thing to get used to, and that is contributing in large part to how long some of this stuff takes, because they don't know how to do that part. I would not know how, I mean, I produced stuff constantly under G4, but I wouldn't know how to line produce something from like a VP standpoint.
Right.
It's a whole different job.
I wonder if, when you talk about crowdfunding, because it's one of the most successfully crowdfunded games ever, probably top 10 as far as generating money.
I don't know about that.
Really? $5.5 million?
I mean,
that's a lot.
We're in a world where Star Citizen made 175 million.
Well, that's number one. I mean, obviously.
But
it's
like
number one
you've got tons of
miles.
stuff up way up into the double, triple digits in some cases.
I think it's
if you're only counting Kickstarter campaigns, maybe. But like I don't. This is mid-range for stuff like that to some degree. Like
I don't know.
It's high profile.
Most Kickstarter games ask for $100,000 or less
nowadays. But back when this got kickstarted, and that is a back when, believe you me, this was
back then.
This was the heyday of stuff like that.
Yeah, $5.5 million. I wonder if when you crowdfund something, first of all, I think if you're crowdfunding and you end up with like $5.5 million, maybe it should have been crowdfunded in the first place. You probably should be able to find a publisher that would be willing to publish the game.
Well, not until you prove that that's how many people are willing to buy it. That's the whole problem. I mean, that's different now that the Kickstarter thing proved that kind of thing. But back then, that was kind of the Mighty Number 9 thing, too. It was like Capcom didn't think there was any market for a 2D Mega Man game. And then they made all this money on the Kickstarter thing, proving that was there, and all of a sudden Capcom started making them again.
Now they're making a 2D Mega Man game.
I mean, and putting out the Legacy collections and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, there was a real resistance to that kind of thing for a long time.
I'm just wondering if the more money you make on Kickstarter, the more likely it is that that product is going to end up getting delayed. Because I feel like
I think everything
if you have a small
delayed.
team and you have all that money and that security, suddenly you're not in all that much of a hurry to get it done and move on to something else.
See, you don't have that money and that security, though, because there's no way this game only costs $5 million.
Really?
Because the biggest expense in development is paying the developers.
Right.
And you're going to delay this a whole nother year? They've got funding from somewhere else as well.
I'm sure.
I mean, that's the point of Kickstarter. It's a Kickstarter. It's not completely funder, And so I'm sure that costs more than that, because to keep this development team on full time
this game should not cost more than $5.5 million.
In theory,
it should not. It shouldn't even get close to that. But again, that shows me that Iga is not doing a good job corralling this project. He's not doing a good job leading the project.
If the game's good, I don't give a shit. That's all I ask. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how much it costs. If I like the game and it comes out and it's like Castlevania Never Left, I'm good.
But not everyone is like you, though. You can give money and not care about it. You just hey, if this comes back to me and something that I love, that's cool. There's a lot of people that give money to these, though, that literally make a sacrifice to contribute the money.
Well, that's their error then.
Because that doesn't make them any happier.
I don't care. Kickstarter is, you're throwing money in a hole and hoping something pops out of it in a year or two. or 3 or 4, or in the case of Star Citizen, before you die.
I think that's your perspective on it.
No,
though.
that's what crowdfunding is. Like it's a donation.
Again, I think it's your perspective on crowdfunding.
Well, my perspective is correct because it's a
you're not
it's
the
a donation.
person who goes to the Kickstarter page and freaks out and posts like angry 5,000 word tirades. But there are a lot of people that do.
Okay.
If you go to the Kickstarter page,
Sucks to be them.
But listen, Matt, if you go to the Kickstarter page for this game, there are 50,000 comments. 50,000 comments from users who are like, what the hell is going on with this game?
That's not a whole lot in comparison to some of the freakouts. Like, go to Mighty Number 9. I bet there's 3 times that.
I remember going and looking at his page, and I think the vitriol on the Mighty Number 9 page is more severe. But I think the quantity might be bigger on Bloodstained.
No, there was more on Mighty Number 9. I mean, they might catch up if this comes out and it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, because remember, that's the volume
Probably
of Mighty Number 9.
20,000 of the comments came from after Mighty Number 9 came out and people went to rage or whatever.
Well, I think Mighty Number 9 did hurt
Kickstarter.
The perception of kickstarting video games, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, this is just one of those things. I didn't expect it really to come out this year. When they announced it was delayed to next year, I was like, it wasn't?
I expected it to come out last year, after expecting it to come out within a year from when the Kickstarter started.
It's a Kickstarter. Well, also, that's the thing. Is like the Kickstarter thing gives you a distorted view of how long this stuff takes, because most of this stuff, most game development, we don't even hear about it till it's been 3 years in development. Like it's
but you're talking about like big AAA stuff. This is just a 2D side scroller.
Indie stuff takes for fucking ever if you don't.
It depends on the size of your
you're
team.
Starting up. If you like some of these indie games have taken 6-7 years. Like. It's no problem, and when it's not even Kickstarted or it's just a thing that they're working on. Like what? How about that?
That's usually games where they're floating the bill, though. Their own budget.
And that might be happening here too, because if you're hiring all these people to do a game on this scale, an HD 2D animated Castlevania game.
Well, it's 4K, right? It's not just HD. Yeah.
Well, that's a big expense.
You create the 4K art. It's like once it's done, but.
Until you got to redo it because something changed, and then you got to do it.
Or Iga doesn't like it.
That's also possible, but like
I think this project is flying off the rails, and Iga is responsible for it. He's the leader of the team.
I don't know. Like
it could end up coming out and being great.
It's only off the rails if it never comes out. Like I don't care.
That's a bumper sticker for you right there.
Because I haven't backed a whole lot of stuff that didn't come out. I mean, I think the only prominent. I mean, I've got a couple things that are still in limbo. I've got one thing that I backed in 2011 that's still not out, but they still swear they're doing it, and I'm like, sure. And like, it was a small thing. It was like a. I think they asked for like 10,000 and got like 15,000. It was like a weird little RPG thing. Right. And it was supposed to be out in 2013, and periodically they still post like, oh, we got an artist, and like people in the comments are just like, it's not 50,000 comments because not that many people backed it, but it's like people are like, it's not even anger anymore. It's just like
they're just
cynicism.
like, my money's gone.
The only major thing I think I backed, and it was really, I think I only put $10 in because I just wanted to be able to read the drama, because I knew it was never going to work. Was Clang. Remember that with Neil Stevenson, like back like the realistic sword fighting Wii controller motion control thing, and then they they basically shat out like a terrible alpha and said, no, that's all I said. All we said we were gonna do. Yeah. Like it was like a little thing that doesn't even work.
Thanks for the money.
Bye. And I go, I guess it's not gonna work out. And it's just like, okay. But everything else I've ever backed has come to fruition, with the exception of Star Citizen. And obviously stuff I've in the last couple of years, like Pray for the Gods, which is still listed with a coming this year thing.
That's
which
not happening.
Sure.
Yeah, that's not happening.
But that's the thing with Kickstarter. It's like and I think Kickstarter, in large part, people who do Kickstarter stuff now for video games anyway. I feel like I've backed some board games and some stuff like that, and comic books that were way more timely. And hit their estimated delivery dates way better. But for video games, like I've said before, like you aren't late on a Kickstarter delivery for a video game, in my opinion, until you're a year after the estimated delivery date on your campaign, because that's just how development goes.
I would definitely give more leeway to game development, and without a doubt.
And funny story though, Mighty Number 9 only missed its estimated delivery date by 9 months.
Really?
It didn't even. It wasn't. So in my rule book, it wasn't even late.
Wasn't even late.
And it still sucked.
Yep.
So you never know.
All right, we got to wrap this up. We got
I got to
one
go
more
with
topic
Miyamoto.
to
You delay it till it's good. Unless you run out of money and then you have to cancel it, and then everybody stares at you for the rest of your life.
Well, I don't Kickstarter back anything. I backed one game. It was for Joe Fielder, who gave me my first job in the industry. Otherwise, I don't back it because I just feel like it's kind of a conflict of interest if I'm going to talk about the stuff. So.
And also, you're throwing money in a hole, and you don't know if you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have backed a couple of comic book projects, usually from people I know, but I haven't backed a video game in.
You're not alone.
Pray for the Gods is probably the last one.
Yeah, Kickstarter's game stuff is way, way down. The money being spent isn't way down, but the total number of projects has fallen through the floor, which is why the money hasn't changed. Because there's fewer projects they're putting the same money.
Well, also because I feel like 2011, 2012 was where like that all blew up on the back of Broken Age, and part of it was because people saw an opportunity and a way to get these games these genres and types of games that weren't being made anymore to be made. And
there's a way to get a game you knew you were never going to get.
Right.
Shenmue, perfect example.
But now, like especially in the way, I mean, Shenmue might have been the last big example of that, where now all these games that used to be in a genre or a subtype that used to be something that would never ever get made in the industry, now the industry recognizes that there's audiences for these things, and like you don't really need Kickstarter to get that fix anymore, you know?
Yeah. You can always just put your money towards
there's
some
a real possibility. I'm not saying it's a big possibility, but there's a real possibility that Shenmue 3 sells well enough that they might get funding for Shenmue 4 without having to go crowdfunded.
Don't you think that they should just give the crowdfunded money back though instead?
No, because that's not how this works.
Why not though?
Because it's a donation.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna do the honorable thing, it's like
that's not the deal, though. Like, you don't have to pay anybody back. It's not an investment. It's not.
I know it's not the contract you sign, but you were given all this free money and you parlayed that into riches. It's like, why not give the money back?
I don't think anybody behind Shenmue 3 is gonna get rich off it.
Well, if Shenmue 4 and Shenmue 5, or if it, who knows?
Well, at that point, I think maybe you give Shenmue 4 free to backers of Shenmue 3,
there you
maybe.
Go. That's cool.
But like, that's about as. I don't think Kickstarter's machinery is in place to refund everybody through outside funding for a second game. Like that doesn't really add up. I mean, if you demand a return on this kind of thing, then go get approved as an investor in Fig.
Yeah.
Which apparently is a pretty lucrative.
It is.
Situation
Everybody
if you pick the right project.
Done it has tripled their money. Yeah, so it's going pretty good. You might want to look into that, but you have to go through all of the paperwork and certify that you're worthy to be a part of Fig. It's not like Kickstarter where you can just do it.
I mean, look, I paid my money into the Shenmue thing, and I'm getting a copy of Shenmue 3, and that's all that's what I bought.
Yeah, that's fine.
As long as you don't go in for the crazy 250 things, like blah, 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 blah. Now, to be fair, I would have probably, if it hadn't been gone by the time we finished our press conference live stream, I probably would have gone for that one that gave you Rio's jacket. But it was gone by the time we were done.
All right, we got to move on. We're running out of time. Our last topic of the episode is related to Battlefield 5. And it came out from financial analysts this week that pre-orders for Battlefield 5 are doing terrible. How do you feel about that? The analysts are saying that it could become a Titanfall 2 because it's launching right in between Black Ops 4 and Red Dead 2, both of which are doing far better in pre-orders than Battlefield 5. So 2 questions. First one is, why do you think it's doing so bad with pre-orders? And the second question is, what can they do to fix it?
I think it's doing badly because it's still just another World War II game to some degree. I think.
Do you think people have already burnt out on going back to World War I and World War II?
I don't think COD WW2 did them any favors.
Yeah.
Because it's certainly now when I think, World War II shooter, I think of last year's COD, and it just deflates all my hype for it. I don't believe that this is like related to the whole like get women out of my Battlefield game nonsense. I don't think there's enough people that freaked out about that to make a dent in what you'd expect pre-orders to be. But I will also say that I haven't pre-ordered it because I just don't see the point.
Yeah.
Like and the other thing, of course, is part of my thing here is I'm kind of waiting until we get closer to the release dates to decide which of these games I jump in on. Like, I haven't seen the Battle Royale mode for this. I haven't seen the Battle Royale mode for Call of Duty Black Ops 4.
They've only shown glimpses of
We haven't seen any of that stuff. I don't even know which platform I might buy this on, because, like, performance might be
One
an
X,
issue.
right?
Probably, but who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe PC, but then maybe the PC version won't be all that different looking if you don't have the RTX cards or whatever. And let's also not forget, we don't know tons about what the campaign is or how long that's going to be or how much meat is on that.
Well, Battlefield campaigns typically are abysmal, so
yeah.
I would not put any stock in that whatsoever.
That's true.
I would not count on that being something that's going to sell you the game.
And I think more and more, especially in this games as a service era, you're looking at, like, this is the game I play and this is what I'm going to continue playing, and, like, I know that's never going to be Battlefield. As much as I prefer Battlefield to COD for the most part, like, it's just not a thing I stick with. And I already have Battlefield 1 if I want to play some Battlefield multiplayer. I already have Battlefront 2, which was just on sale for $9 this week.
Do you think that Battlefront 2 might be part of the reason why people are shying away from this?
Maybe. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, not to completely equate them, but it is kind of the same game in some ways. Like, if you already have Battlefront 2, like, unless you're really married to the idea of playing a World War II game, why would you buy this? They even kind of look the same in some way. Like, the Frostbite 2 engine kind of gives that same sheen to everything.
You're right.
And I just think, I think it's just not much of interest here.
So what do you think can turn it around?
Nothing?
Nothing.
What are you going to do? I mean, they've picked the release date. They're stuck between...
Better pre-order incentives, maybe?
But what would that be?
I don't know. Give you a real gun? That would boost the sales in America.
True.
Here's an AK with each copy of Battlefield.
Or maybe just give it away, give a pre-order away with the sale of every AR-15.
Yeah.
There.
Or what about removing women from the game and then wiping this trailer from the face of the earth?
I guess.
I'm with you. I don't think that has anything to do with it.
You get about 3,000 more customers doing that.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, I really think it's just a vocal minority complaining about that. I don't think that's really the root of the problem here.
I also think part of it is, like, they haven't really promoted it to the mainstream yet.
No, they haven't.
Obviously, the pre-order thing is like, they must be comparing similar tracking numbers for whatever. But I just feel like Battlefield 5 has not penetrated outside of the core demographic at this point, and even without the controversy over women being in a video game,
which is so absurd.
I just don't think there's much here that looks like something you haven't already done.
Yeah.
As exciting as they want to make this look, it's just Battlefield again.
I think I go back to the point that you made, that what's really all that different about this versus Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
And see, here's the thing too, is that
I know it's very different in terms of,
Oh yeah, historians will tell me I'm insane.
Yeah.
Like, and I get that. But
it's not like
a million things.
But it's
that
not
different.
like the planes in Battlefield 1 are going to be like totally different from these
right,
planes.
Exactly.
It's just you're still doing the same thing.
The technology that you're using is still basically the same.
Well, also, like, they fudged Battlefield 1 a little bit to the point that you still had equivalents of everything you'd expect in a World War II game.
Right.
But just from like a World War I tech standpoint.
Right.
And matter of fact, when I watched, I don't know if it was B-roll you used here or it was a YouTube video I watched talking about Battlefield 5, but he was using Battlefield 1 B-roll, and I didn't realize it until he pointed it out like 5 minutes into the game. I'm like, at first I was like, wow, this looks a lot like Battlefield 1. And if I was like, oh, and by the way, this is Battlefield 1 footage. I don't have any footage. I'm like, it was like
and
a YouTube.
It took a while.
It was a YouTube guy who'd gone to like one of the events or something. Just came back to give impressions. I was listening to it, and I did not realize the footage was not from the new game until he told me.
So, what do you think that this spells doom for EA putting out a Battlefield every year?
Well, they haven't been.
But PAX seems to think that is the plan.
To do Battlefield every year?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Because like now they won't be doing Battlefront.
Because he thinks Respawn eventually is going to take over at least one of the off years for Battlefield, because obviously the pedigree with the people who are working there from Infinity Ward.
I just don't feel like there's a demand for that. I mean, I feel
it doesn't appear that way.
I mean, I feel like even before we knew this, I feel like that's overkill. I mean, I would say to some degree the same about COD. Like, you've got at a certain point you have to think like, well, maybe we should just stop trying to come up with a new COD every year and just put out the stuff that sells.
Yeah.
Which I think seems to be Black Ops 4
kind of
seems
what's
to be
happening.
step one
Yeah,
in that plan.
Yeah, it's the first step in that direction.
Maybe that's the next thing to do with Battlefield is sort of just just have the next one be called Battlefield.
Right.
And
make a platform.
That's the platform from now on, and every year you put out some kind of pack that is
$30 or whatever.
$30 and it's a different war every time or something. You know, like maybe that might be the only way we're ever going to see another future one.
You may be right.
Because I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
2149.
Yep.
But didn't sell, so you're never going to see that again.
Yep, that's the way it goes.
And frankly, at this point, EA is probably just terrified of mechs.
Yeah, after Titanfall and everything. So do you think that this game at this point is just not going to do that great?
I don't think... I mean, yeah, I guess. Like, I think if you're trapped between all these other releases, that's a possibility, especially if pre-orders are down already. I mean, I think
that's a tough window.
I think when you started this subject, you said like, there's a possibility it could be a Titanfall 2 situation, and that doesn't look super unlikely at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not a comment on the game. Titanfall 2 was great.
It was, yeah.
But like,
still is.
If you don't capture that zeitgeist, if you don't capture the attention of that mainstream audience, if you really think you can go toe-to-toe with the 800-pound gorilla that is COD, and it still is, whether you play it or not, Titanfall 2 found out the hard way, and Battlefield 5 might be about to find out the same thing. It's launching uncomfortably close to where Titanfall did, too.
It's also EA again.
Yeah, but you're trapped.
You're going to get the double slap.
But it's also doing the same thing Titanfall. I mean, EA was one half of the sandwich before because it was Battlefield 1 and COD.
Yeah, now they're not.
Now it's COD and Red Dead.
Yeah.
And
that is a bad window to be in,
That's a tough row to hoe.
EA was pretty unhappy when they found out the release date for Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
They're like, what do we do? You can only get so far away from it, right?
And there's no, I mean, it's like you say, what can we do to improve? Sometimes even if you see what your opponent is doing in chess, you're still going to lose.
You're still powerless to stop it.
It doesn't mean you have a way out.
Yeah.
And I think you might be in that situation with Battlefield 5 right now. Like, that's where it's going to come out. It's where it's got to come out. Your only other option would be to like push it to like December.
Maybe it ends up being a game that has legs, that people maybe don't buy it that first week.
Maybe.
But after they get like their gift cards for Christmas or whatever, and then they're shopping the first week of January, that's something they pick up maybe.
Maybe
just gruntled blops for players.
I feel like it's just so... if you look at your average person's
it doesn't work that
collection, it's just... You already have 4 things like it, you know. It's not, and people talk about, people like the redemption of a game that doesn't launch strongly, like in a No Man's Sky situation or something. Obviously, this would not probably be the same thing where No Man's Sky was more or less, an expectation problem. But the other, people have, No Man's Sky came back, and the patches bring people back on Steam, and the patch on this one has gone crazy, and everybody's like saying it's good. But one of the reasons No Man's Sky can do that is because the premise is interesting and attractive to people. Like, there's nothing quite like it.
That's not the case here.
And definitely not, like, how do you get people to look twice at this World War II shooter?
Yeah.
And even though it's pretty...
Working with NVIDIA on the announcement of RTX was good.
It was good, but who's going to have that card?
Right. Yeah, it's a good idea that doesn't actually pay dividends, basically. Right. Yep. We got to go. We got to go to our trailer of the week. We're right up against it. As you guys know, this is the time for you guys to get your questions into our chat, and we'll answer them when we get back. Our trailer of the week this week is for Life is Strange 2. We talked about Don't Nod earlier. Life is Strange is really the franchise it built its name on.
Yeah.
It went from obscure indie developer to, oh my god, they're turning into like a major developer in the span of like 3 years.
Even survived a weird prequel by another team that didn't even use Ashley Birch.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, she helped, but... that was a potential franchise killer if before the storm went wrong. And they seem like they're going to come out of it okay.
Yep. So Life is Strange 2 is going to be 5 episodes. First episode hits September 27th.
Yeah.
So just about a month away from now. If you got to play the first episode of this, let's roll it.
I have no idea where we are. Feels like we're walking nowhere. don't think Daniel understands what's going on. I can't tell him the truth now. I just can't. How am I supposed to take care of us out here?
On the ground! Don't move!
What are we gonna do now?
There's nothing we can't do. As long as we're together.
I've struggled to find any connection between that and the prior game.
Like art style.
Yeah. I mean,
like-
obviously the same universe, but no familiar faces, really. It just looks like it's just in name only in the same town.
Now that's
or-
how you do an anthology.
No, you're right. Self-contained, like you said. All right, let's get to questions because we are running over, if that's even possible when you do a 3-hour show. We want to get some questions in here before we got to go. As always, as SIFTD Games helps us pluck them out. Super Cordon Blue, Matter, what are your thoughts on Polymega? I'm sure you've seen it, but it's the console that can take SNES, NES, Genesis, blah, 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 cartridges, discs, etc., and dump them onto the console. I played it at E3 and loved it.
Well, I haven't used it. My main question would be how good the sound is, I guess.
Oh, yeah. That's a big sticking point.
But also, like, I have all the old systems. I have so many, like, retro collections. I have the Super NES Mini and the NES. I'm good. I have the Retron 7 or whatever. Yeah, I feel like I'm good on the old school system playing. Like I don't need any more. I'll keep an eye on it. PC Engine would be. I'll tell you what I like is a way to play TurboGrafx CD games again, because my old TurboGrafx CD doesn't seem to work anymore.
I don't even know where mine is.
Well, for a while I lost the little chip, the little card you have to put in to make it realize you want to use the CD.
Yep.
And then I finally found it and plugged it in, and it won't even do anything.
I am shocked that you found
So
that.
I found it when my mom moved from her old house. It was in one of the boxes. We had to
Wow.
clean out. I'm like, aha! And I took it home, and it said, no, it still doesn't work. So I would like a way to play TurboGrafx CD games and PC Engine CD games that did not involve me tracking down a Super Graphics or a Turbo Duo somewhere.
Yeah. Here's from W. Matthew. As always, we answer one of his questions. I was listening to the Giant Bombcast in regards to Battlefield 5 low pre-orders, and just said he thinks the era of $60 multiplayer first-person shooters is over. Given Fortnite being free, PUBG $30, Overwatch $40, etc., I tend to agree a $60 multiplayer FPS will just fail. COD is on a downward trend. What are your guys' take?
That's a good point. I think I agree with him to some degree. I think, like if you don't care about the campaign, why would you want to pay for it?
Yeah.
And
The whole world's going a la carte. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to drop DirecTV right now. It's like signing up for services now with that stuff
Yeah.
that you don't want, and you're paying for stuff you don't want. That is going the way of the dodo in general in our society.
Well, unless you're on Twitch, in which case you're about to have to watch ads again.
Right, yeah.
Hey, remember the reason you stopped paying for cable? Let's remind you of that. Good work. Good
I'm
work,
just
guys.
glad they didn't take away the free Twitch Prime subs.
Yes.
I almost had a heart attack when I saw that email. I was like, oh no, they're going to take it away. But now you just have to watch ads if you're on Twitch Prime, which I don't know. I think it's only a matter of time until the free subs go away too, but hopefully I'm wrong. JRevic7, if PUBG could go back in time, the creator of PUBG, I'm assuming, Brendan Green, could go back in time, do you think he makes the timed exclusive deal with Microsoft, even with the knowledge that it would sell 8 million plus in 8 months due to the huge advantage this open for Fortnite on PlayStation being unopposed and free?
I don't know.
I think he's already made more money than he ever could have fathomed he would make. I think he's already made more money than he will ever spend or any of his ancestors will ever spend. I don't think
Descendants.
he regrets anything.
If his ancestors are spending the money, there's a whole different story there.
Well, he's going to die eventually.
Well, ancestors are...
Oh, right. That's the other way.
It means
Yeah.
ghosts of his family are coming
Right.
and asking for money, which is a great story premise.
There we go.
But
Yeah. I don't think he regrets anything.
I think he probably sells the company before the Fortnite mania happens.
Yeah, maybe.
And just gets the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's fine with how it turned out.
Yeah, I think he's A-okay.
It's more of a maximizing the profit thing at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, it's.
I think the people who tend to be greedy are the people who already have a lot of money. When you're someone who doesn't have any money and you get a huge windfall of it, you're usually just like, okay, I'm good. Like, you're not going to be the person who's like trying to scratch out that extra penny.
Majora Tom 91 says, Matt, what do you think will come next from FromSoftware after Sekiro? Bloodborne 2, Dark Souls 4, or another Armored Core game? I will say another Armored Core game because the other two are never happening. Especially Bloodborne 2. Bloodborne 2 is never going to happen. Sony would have to step up and say, let's do that, and that's not going to be a thing. They would have by now, I think.
Here's one from Congrim1, and I'm just going to cut out the explanation and just get right to his question. Are there any doubts of Red Dead Redemption 2 not being the best-selling game this year?
I don't see what could beat it.
COD, that's it.
I don't think COD's going to do it.
If there's a game that can do it,
if there was, that would have been it. But COD is also not tracking as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Battlefield 5 is tracking
way
bad,
lower than that. Yeah.
But COD is not performing at COD levels. So
Yeah.
I think Red Dead's your winner.
Are there any games from earlier in the year? I mean, you have Monster Hunter World. That's at 10 million.
Monster Hunter World and God of War also crossed 10 million.
Do you think Red Dead will sell 10 million in like a month and a half?
Across all platforms? Yeah.
Yeah? I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I'm not saying it'll blow everybody out of the water.
Because the first Red Dead has only sold, 15 million life to date?
Yeah, but this is a different thing.
It is.
Like, the hype for this is beyond anything Red Dead 1 ever had.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be close.
I think it'll be...
To sell by the end of the year. If you said lifetime, I think no question.
Yeah.
But if you're saying by the end of the year, Red Dead doesn't have a lot of time to catch up with the other games.
God of War had 10 million by the end of May. Red Dead can do it, especially because it has multiple platforms.
To answer your question, yes. I mean, it's going to be, if you actually did it on like games sold per month basis, like nothing's going to touch Red Dead.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man's going to be up there. I don't know. The more I've seen of it, the more I'm not sure if Spider-Man's like crazy sales in America are going to translate outside of America, but we'll see.
Game Baron Inc., what are your thoughts, expectations for expos and cons for the remainder of the year? We got PAX West coming up. Then we have the Game Awards, PSX. I think that's pretty much it for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
I don't know.
I'm excited for them. I don't know.
I know PAX is usually just a smattering of indie things.
I mean, this is the last big one, Gamescom right now. This is the last gigantic con.
We'll see some reveals.
Game Awards getting there.
We'll see some reveals.
Yeah.
Game Awards rarely has a lot of meat on it,
Yeah.
but it's usually just like announcements of here's a thing.
New things.
Which is cool. Yeah, new things. There's a lot of world premiere.
Yep.
And that kind of thing. So we'll see that. You know, it's like the Sekiro thing. Then it's like, okay, here's a thing to speculate on for the next 6 damn months. But in terms of like really meaty reveals, I think we're over the hump for the most part.
Yep. We're starting to wrap up the year. Jared Batt, thank you very much for subscribing. Goose and Epps, thank you very much for subscribing, man. We really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. Let's answer one more question. We got to get the heck out of here.
People are mentioning TGS.
Oh, TGS. How'd we forget TGS?
Because TGS is kind of irrelevant now.
That was a facetious question. Yeah, nothing really happens at TGS, although Nintendo's actually going to kind of be there this year. I think more just to court third parties than actually have a presence or whatever. But that's a good first step because Nintendo usually doesn't touch TGS with a 10-foot pole. So it would be good if Nintendo could get back to TGS. It might actually make it relevant again. Mm-hmm. Or if Nintendo were to do Space World again, that would be awesome.
I like this one from Killzone 310. Shane, why don't you wear the little alligator shirts from the IW days anymore?
I don't know.
Why do you hate Izod?
I don't hate Izod. I don't know. That's a weird question to ask, though. I love this shirt, man. What's wrong with this shirt?
Somebody's keeping track of your brands.
Apparently.
Someone's always paying attention, Mr. Mulder.
One more. With Dishonored getting canned completely, Is there a hope for stealth games, except for Hitman and Styx? Yes, there are stealth games. There are stealth games getting announced all the time. There was just one announced today.
What?
It was last week. It was called The Spy Who Shrunk Me. And it's for VR. It's a stealth game for VR, which I think sounds like a really interesting concept. Think about really like bending down to hide behind something. That could really add a level of immersion.
We got to have a Splinter Cell on the horizon somewhere.
Well, maybe he's saying like big budget stealth games.
Yeah.
Because there are tons of indie stealth games. And big budget, I don't know, man. That's not a genre that plays well with the mainstream, in all honesty. People get impatient and like...
But I still say Splinter Cell's coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most mainstream stealth game, but even that franchise has kind of moved away from center there a little bit.
Well, we'll see what if they make another one after all this time. It could be just about anything.
It's true. Yeah, they could get rid of stealth altogether, or it could go back to the old shoot the light bulb, like your foot is 1 pixel outside the shadow, your busted play of the first couple games.
Yeah, but those kind of games, like the pure stealth stuff, just doesn't seem to move the needle with anyone outside of a very limited audience.
Yeah.
Which I don't like them very much anyway, so doesn't surprise me so much, but because like stealth games have a hard time figuring out how to make stealth gameplay fun in and of itself, and not just like normal gameplay but slower.
Yeah.
I think that's what Sessler always used to say. It's like a good stealth game figures out a way to make stealth the center of the gameplay for a good reason, as opposed to just like, we're going to take what you'd normally do in an action game but make you do it slower.
That's true.
Which is a good explanation I always thought of like a bad stealth game. It's just like if our mechanics allowed you to, you could just do all this at once, but instead we're going to make you sit here and wait.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true. All right, we have to go. I think this is the longest episode we've ever done.
I think we've gone longer.
Maybe.
There was an hour, a 3.5 hour one at one point. I think.
I think you may be right. But anyway, you're getting your money's worth this week. We're trying to make up for not having the show on Friday, so we're giving you a little bit of extra love. Couple things before I go. New T-shirts are coming. They are being printed right now, and I should have them within about a week. Should I show you? You guys want to see the design before I have the shirts done?
That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah? Or do you guys want to wait until I have the shirts done and then see them?
I mean, I would show the thing I want to sell people to make sure they want to buy the thing before I printed the thing.
Well, they're already being printed, so that's a moot point.
Oh, well, then it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, maybe some people want to see them. What does chat say? You guys want to be surprised when you see the shirts, or you want me to just show you the design? Very quickly in chat, we got to go, people. There's one, show them. Show.
I assume you mean like later this week or something? Or?
Yeah, like in, yes. It looks like you guys want to see them. All right. So anyway, new shirts are coming. They're going to be freaking awesome. The best shirts we've ever made, in my opinion. And they were designed by a fellow sifter. Somebody amongst you worked with me on the design. I came up with the concept sketch, and I use that term very roughly, for what I wanted, and he turned it into something amazing. So not only am I excited to show you guys the designs, I'm also excited to share with you guys who is very talented among you all. So that's it for GameFace episode 138 here on SIFTD. Next week, we might do it again on Tuesday because I'm leaving for Labor Day weekend to go home and see my mom for the first time since Christmas. And I'm going to be gone for like a 4-day weekend. So I worked all through this past weekend. I'm going to work all through this weekend getting content ready so that there's stuff on the site while I'm gone. And I would like to be able to do maybe GameFace on Tuesday of next week as well to get the show up, because if we try to do it on Friday, I'll be gone already for Labor Day weekend. So we might be back here, same bat time, same bat place next Tuesday night. But everybody, thank you for hanging out on a Tuesday night. I know it's not easy, especially folks in Europe, folks on the East Coast. You guys all rock. GameFace is up and out.